Part of the reason for that is Russia's invasion of your country.
It makes me feel a bit more safe. Yeah, just because we were not really ready for what was happening. And it might seem like, okay, we're escalating something. No, we're not escalating anything. We're just preparing. If you're strong enough, probably less likely you will be attacked. Yeah, so I think it's just makes Europe stronger and a safer place to be in.
Assignment was presented by me, Anna Holligan. The producer was Ellie House.
That was Assignment from the BBC. I'm Saroja Coelho, and this is CBC Radio 1. Have a great day.
Good morning, Manitoba, and hello there, Winnipeg. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio, and we are live in our CBC studios on this Thursday morning, 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app and on YouTube. Thanks so much for joining us. The morning show is on until 8:37 a.m., and let's say good morning to the team. Mr. Corey Funk is directing the show as always, and Corey also covers the weather forecast. Corey also covers the commute. I'm fixing my microphone, trying to do two things at once. I'm fixing my mic because Abby Adiyami's telling me to, and so he should. He is our senior tech on the show. Abby's covering the weather. He'll be on air with us in a moment. And hello to Brad Lillies, who is behind the controls of our YouTube stream. If you want to watch the show, that's where you're going to do it. It is, as mentioned, 3 minutes to 6 o'clock. Let's go straight to our news center, and then we'll talk a bit more about what's coming up in the day's weather as well. Heather Wells is here with our headlines to start the day. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, people who use the Red River worry about the city dumping sewage with higher levels of bacteria and viruses. For 3 kilometers downstream of the North End sewage treatment plant, levels could triple over the next 6 months as officials test new gear. One woman who sits along the river watching birds several times a week says people who fish in the Red may have to change their fishing habits. And strong hints this morning about the proposal to turn Churchill's port into one of the Prime Minister's nation-building projects. The Minister of Northern and Arctic Affairs, Rebecca Chartrand, says there is great potential for the Churchill Port project to be announced before the Grey Cup in November. We'll hear more in our next local news coming up at 6:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Current temperature this morning, by the way, 17 degrees. Our high is going to be 18. We won't move much in Winnipeg. And our sky is pretty clear already. So that is a big change from yesterday when we woke up with that crazy fog for most of the morning. Well, on the program today, from refugee camp to the football pitch, we're going to hear how one Winnipegger is about to live out his childhood dream of playing professional soccer abroad. How cool is that? So stay tuned. We're going to hear more about that. Also, speaking of being outside, outdoor play is not just for kids. We're going to talk more about why Canadian researchers are promoting more recreational activities for older adults in this country. So we'll have that interview also. And a little bit later, a special 2-part interview with the head of Inner City Youth Alive about bail reform. He says he has compassion, but he also sees the need for different laws in Canada. Stay tuned.
On cue.
Sterling Harjo is the creator of the hit show Reservation Dogs. He's also a certified genius in that he won a MacArthur Genius Grant. Sterling will be here to tell you why he wanted his new show to focus on truth and journalism at a time when he says both are more threatened than ever.
What is the world lacking right now? And a lot of that is truth.
Q with Tom Power. This morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland. And on the CBC Listen app or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm John Northcott. We begin with the Prime Minister's latest overseas efforts. Mark Carney is leaving for the United Kingdom today. He'll spend the next 2 days in London meeting with world leaders to attract investment to Canada. As Olivia Stefanovich reports, the Prime Minister is under pressure to deliver results.
Mark Carney has been to the United Kingdom now twice with this upcoming trip, Washington twice. But he's also been to Belgium, France, Germany, Italy.
It's not unusual for new prime ministers to make frequent international trips. But former Conservative cabinet minister Peter MacKay says the globetrotting can come with risks.
The opposition parties will no doubt be keeping track of and questioning the Prime Minister's ability to deliver a result of some sort, something tangible.
The Conservatives are already seizing on the Prime Minister's travels, criticizing Mark Carney for coming home empty-handed while the trade war continues with the U.S.
The Prime Minister is in Mexico today for a photo op and fake agreement. But
Carney will now spend the next 2 days in London, meeting with business and world leaders at the Global Progress Action Summit. His goal is to open new markets for Canada, but most of his time is expected to be spent laying the groundwork for future agreements. Roland Paris is the director of the Graduate School of Public and International Affairs at the University of Ottawa. He says the face time Carney will get is valuable.
The summits are actually really important and a really efficient way for the Prime Minister to meet many of his international counterparts at the same place at the same time.
Carney already has meetings lined up with the Prime Ministers of Australia, Iceland, Spain, and Denmark, along with summit host, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Keir Starmer. Olivia Stefanovich, CBC News, Ottawa.
Palestinian leader Mahmoud Abbas will address the United Nations this morning via video link. The virtual speech comes after U.S. President Donald Trump's administration barred Abbas from traveling to New York. His address comes at a critical moment for Palestinian statehood. Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba says Palestinian recognition is inevitable. He addressed the Global Assembly yesterday. Ishiba also condemned actions by the Israeli government, warning that they threaten the prospect of a two-state solution. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has vowed not to allow the establishment of a Palestinian state. A French court says former French President Nicolas Sarkozy is guilty of criminal conspiracy. Sarkozy and his wife entering a Paris court ahead of the verdict. He was accused of receiving millions of euros in financing from late Libyan dictator Muammar Gaddafi, leading up to his successful 2007 presidential bid. But Sarkozy was acquitted of all other charges, including illegal campaign financing and something called passive corruption. Sarkozy was accused of making the deal with Gaddafi in 2005 when he was France's interior minister. 2 Danish airports are back up and running this morning. Flights were grounded at the airports last night after reports of drones flying overhead. This is the second time this week that Denmark has been forced to shut down airports because of this sort of activity. As Dominic Valitis reports, Danish authorities say they believe these incidents were meant to spread fear.
Captured on camera, a possible drone is spotted in the vicinity of Denmark's Aalborg airport late Wednesday night. It eventually disappears, but not before the airport was forced to close to commercial and military flights for several hours. 100 miles away, another drone was sighted near Denmark's second largest airport, Billund. It too was forced to close. Drones were also spotted near 3 other airports, including the Skrydstrup Air Base, home to some of Denmark's F-16 and F-35 fighter jets. It's the second such security incident in the Nordic country this week, after Copenhagen's airport was forced to close on Monday due to a drone incursion. At a press conference this morning, the Danish authorities confirmed the drones were launched locally. This was, they say, a hybrid attack, the work of a professional actor intending to spread fear. Although the authorities say there is no evidence to link the drones to Russia, Denmark is now reaching out to both NATO and the EU to discuss the incidents. Dominic Valitis for CBC News, Bristol, England.
People in Hong Kong are cleaning up after the world's most powerful tropical storm this year. Workers cut and remove toppled trees as residents return to daily life. Businesses and some schools have reopened, while Hong Kong's airport authority says flights will gradually resume this morning. Typhoon Ragasa brought the region to a standstill Tuesday afternoon. It lashed the northern Philippines and Taiwan, where it killed 14 people, downgraded from 17, before making landfall in southern China yesterday. We're expecting to hear more today about the future of Canada Post. The minister responsible, Joel Lightbound, is scheduled to announce new measures to address the financial challenges faced by the Crown Corporation. For its part, the union representing Canada Post workers says it wasn't given any advance notice. CUPW is embroiled in a bitter labour dispute with Canada Post. Last month, the union's 55,000 members voted down what Canada Post said was its final offer. After a student died from a fatal overdose at the University of Victoria dorm room 2 years ago, the school committed to a number of recommendations made by an inquest. But as Emily Fagan reports, many changes still haven't been implemented.
We know that efforts are being made. Currently, that has not come through loud enough for us to hear about it. And if we haven't, then the average students at UVic haven't heard it.
University of Victoria Student Society Director Griffin Foster says there's more he wants to see in response to a 2023 tragedy. 18-year-old Sydney McIntyre Starko, a first-year student, fatally overdosed inside a dorm.
It has been a real awakening for the university.
Graduate student leader Kyla Turner says she's seen changes on campus since an independent report released this spring showed errors in UVic's response, which said it took 9 minutes for campus security to administer naloxone. Too late to save her life. UVic's president at the time committed to implementing all 18 recommendations, most before this fall. Progress has been made, according to the school's special advisor, Jennifer White, including training for security officers and a policy change to allow students to seek help with an overdose without fear of reprisal. But just 3 were fully implemented by September.
Even though the language might not be exactly precise as to how they were expressed in the original documents, the spirit of those recommendations are what's guiding us.
Looking forward, there's more students hope to see, including on-campus drug testing and reduced stigma about substance use. Student leaders say they're hopeful this work will be continued in the months to come. Emily Fagan, CBC News, Victoria.
And now a clarification. Yesterday, we aired a story about how frequently Ontario's strong mayor powers are used. Our story mentioned the mayor of Ottawa's use of this legislation, but it was never actually used to veto Ottawa City Council. Cancer cases and deaths are expected to balloon around the world by the year 2050, affecting patient care. That's according to a new study published by the Lancet Medical Journal. As Jennifer Yoon reports, doctors are calling for more investments in cancer care to prevent deaths.
I think we're already feeling a bit of strain with
Cancer specialist Dr. Keith Stewart has started to wonder, do we have enough chairs for people to come in to receive their chemotherapy? Do we have enough beds for those receiving treatments like CAR T-cell therapy?
We see in all of those areas right now that we're sort of brushing up against our full capacity.
That strain may be getting worse in coming years. According to a new study published in the Lancet Medical Journal, by 2050, cancer rates and deaths are expected to balloon by the millions around the world. And while Canada is doing well compared to other countries, an aging population will mean more people getting diagnosed with cancer and more people dying with cancer across Canada. Ali Mokdad is one of the co-authors of the study.
There'll be more people who will have cancer in Canada, not because cancer is increasing in Canada, simply because people in Canada are living longer.
Stewart, the director of Toronto's Princess Margaret Cancer Program, says authorities should start preparing now and take a multi-pronged approach.
I mean, we need to do better with our efficiency, our scheduling, we need to be a bit better at delivering care at home, getting people out of the hospital and doing that efficiently.
Preparations like that and amped up screening and prevention could mean fewer Canadians die preventable cancer deaths, Stewart says. Jennifer Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm John Northcott. This is CBC News.
Good morning, Manitoba. Hello, Winnipeg. I'm Marcy Marcusa with our team at Information Radio. Thanks for joining us here on the show. In Winnipeg today, our high is going to be 18. We're already right around 17 degrees. So welcome to the Thursday morning show. It is September 25th, and also a special welcome to our national colleagues who are in Steinbach this morning broadcasting Newsnet on the main network with Heather Hiscox. Well, in our show this hour, from refugee camp to the football pitch, imagine having your dream come true. A Winnipegger is about to live that out and play professional soccer abroad. We're going to hear from him. Also, speaking of playing, when did you stop playing? Canadian researchers are now promoting more recreational activities for our older adults. So we're going to find out why that's important as we age. And as Canada's trade war with the U.S. drags on, how should we approach dealing with U.S. President Donald Trump's administration? We hit the streets in Canada to find out with one of our CBC reporters. Find out what you think. So that is coming up as well. Right now, let's go to Heather Wells for local news headlines and updates. Good morning.
Good morning. Child welfare officials reveal major concerns about the way CFS agencies are conducting child abuse investigations at foster homes. That's according to documents obtained by CBC. Those documents show multiple times over a 4-year period where provincial officials found flaws when a child abuse investigation is conducted by a CFS agency. And this included key witnesses not being interviewed and investigations being closed improperly. We're going to hear more on that. As well, a northern Manitoba community is trying to get a handle on a rising drug problem by having public workers undergo mandatory testing for illegal substances. We'll hear more in our next local news at 6:30.
All right, thank you, Heather Wells. And now it's time to dip into our forecast with some more detail. Abby Adiemi always knows more than we do. Hi there.
Good morning, Marcy. No fog today. It's clear outside. You can spot you could spot the stars up there, but yesterday was really something else. Across the board today, we're seeing lots of sunshine in the forecast, though a few spots may feel windy conditions that will come in from the west later. Winnipeg right now, clear outside. We're seeing temperatures hover between 15 and 17 degrees depending on where you are in the city. The skies will stay mainly sunny all day, though the winds will turn breezy from the northwest later. Temperature will only warm up to about 18 degrees and more clear conditions into tonight. We might see some fog patches develop over night into tomorrow morning, and it cools to about 6. Similar conditions we're seeing in the southern part of the province. We're seeing 12 to 14 degrees from the Pembina, the West and Parkland and the Interlake regions, and highs will be near 22 degrees. Up north, we're seeing 8 degrees in the Thompson and the Power region, and Churchill is going to stay even cooler this morning, but highs there will get to about 16. Winnipeg, right now, we are currently hovering between 14 and 16 degrees.
So Abby and Corey's here too. Hi, Corey.
Hello.
Corey Funk. I want to ask you guys a question in a sec, but we probably should get Corey to tell us if anything's urgent in traffic yet.
Nothing urgent right now.
Okay, good. Where do people call you?
204-788-3093.
All right, so that is set up. Now we can talk about sports. So we have this interview coming up in a moment. We're going to hear from a Winnipegger who actually made it. Can you even imagine playing professional soccer overseas? It's like a childhood dream.
Wow.
Did you play soccer when you were a kid?
Yes, I did, but I was the kid who ended up mostly just picking dandelions and looking at trains.
Abby, I know you're a huge soccer fan. I don't know if you played.
I was defensive and attacking. I did a lot of sliding, and I know I cost harm to a lot of players because I always went for the ankle.
Oh, you had a strategy.
Yeah.
Are you supposed to say that, or
No,
aren't you supposed to just say, sorry?
If you're a defensive attacking player, you need to master the art of the sliding tackle. And you can't avoid going for the ankle anytime you do that.
Do you know how you think you know your friends? So this will be very interesting for all of us, because I don't know how Abby's going to answer this. Mm-hmm. If you went down and you got injured, were you, come on, ref? Or would you would you amp up the injury maybe more than it was?
There are days I could be a drama queen if someone does the sliding at me, and I would roll on the ground like I'm dying, and I know there's no, because I don't know
if I would have pegged you for that, but I kind of like that image of you rolling around going, come on.
No, there's a lot of drama. I'm going to hold it like I need a stretcher to get off that pitch.
Holy moly.
Meanwhile, nothing happened to me.
Well, it is a dream of a lot of people, whether you watch soccer, you played, you probably at some point when you were younger, at least, might have thought that you could make the bigger league. In a moment, we're going to hear how that happened for a Winnipegger. So his name is Jordan Kananga. He's about to live this out. At 21 years old, he'll leave Winnipeg to play professional soccer for the Stallion Latina Football Club in the Philippines. Now, to get here in his life's journey, he had to overcome challenges. One of them growing up in a refugee camp, he says. CBC's Zabina Ahmed had a chance to speak with him at the soccer pitch near his home in Winnipeg's North End.
When I came here to Canada, I was playing at a community center first, the first one was Aircam, and then from Aircam, St. Charles Forest, I was playing for like a low academy kids. I was playing there, and it was really, I'll go to school in the morning, and then at 3:30, I'll get in the car, and then they'll come pick me up, I'll go training, and then I'll have game the next day. It was really hard for me, but at the end of the day, I knew what my passion was, and I knew where I wanted to be in the future, and that's why it keep me to keep going. Yeah.
Amazing. And you finished high school now?
Yes.
Okay, and are you enrolled in a university, or you're planning to continue with the soccer?
I did have a couple of university offers, scholarships, but it was really matter of because when the time that they offered me scholarship, I was not a Canadian citizenship yet, so I need a passport for me to go live in the US. That's why I had scholarships. But then when I saw that, I was just like, okay, let me just pursue soccer and just see where I can get in soccer, and then eventually I might go and try and get something in university. For me, as a kid from Winnipeg, Manitoba, where we don't have that much opportunities for grow our talent or to really work hard of our talent, for me, I feel like my first move to Toronto was one of the biggest achievements because I went there to play in a competition, League One Ontario it's called. I was there playing in a championship, which is a still competition, high level competition. But at first I was nervous because it was the first something that I haven't experienced, the way every kid is playing, the way professionalism is taught, and the way you actually worked. You actually be playing with the professional players, some of them ex-international players, and some of them, they are kids who are getting called up for like a U20 team Canada, U20 this, and it was really amazing for me, and that was actually one of the best thing ever. And then from then, I had an agent who came to watch one of my games. I was playing for North Mississauga, and the agent told me, I think I'm gonna be able to take you somewhere and go try your luck, see if you can be able to pursue that dream. And from then he just texted me, was like, yeah, you're going to Spain and you need to get ready this day. And then he sent me a ticket and I went to Spain. And it was really amazing. I tried for Leganés FC. It's like 15 minutes away from Spain. It's a club called Leganés. They play in La Liga. And I was training with a C team. And then two practice games. A coach came to watch, a first team coach and B team coach came to watch me play, and he was amazed at how speed I am. How speed I am and fast, and how I can destroy player one-on-one because I play left winger. How I can destroy player one-on-one, and from then he moved me from first team, and I was training with the first team. Those are like professional footballers. Those people really represent their team, they represent their country, and he was the best. And I think one of the dreams came through for me, that experience. For me being in Spain. I'm pursuing my dream now to my career as my first professional contract in Philippines, and that's where I'm going to and try and see if I can be able to play. It's the Philippine Premier League, where it's really I saw that the experience and the competition is really hard, and I feel like that's where I think I belong for now, and go see if I can be able to build up and go to the next level.
How does it feel like to achieve this much?
For me, it's something that I dream of, especially playing outside of Canada, outside of my own city, because I've looked at it, there's a lot of talented kids in Winnipeg, a lot of talented kids in Winnipeg, but we don't have the opportunity to be shown and to be explored our talent because we don't have the ability to pay $1,000, $2,000 a month for them to give us opportunities, And for me to be able to achieve this dream, it's actually something that I've dreamed of since when I was a kid, and I'm really grateful for me to achieve this dream.
That was a CBC's Zabina Ahmed in conversation with Winnipeg soccer player Jordan Kananga here in Winnipeg before he leaves. The 21-year-old will leave to play professional soccer for the Stallion Latina Football Club in the Philippines. And we also actually have another sports story I want to highlight that's coming up in the next hour of Information Radio. We're going to have a conversation with the new head coach of the University of Manitoba women's hockey team. We'll hear what drew her to the school and what her plans are for the program, especially around development, which is something that development of players, which is something she's passionate about. So stay tuned. That's in the next hour on CBC.
Jan Arden, legendary singer-songwriter, captivates her audience in a legendary venue.
Welcome to Massey Hall.
Jan Arden, with an evening of original hit songs and some of her favorite pop covers from her latest album, Mixtape. and Arden. CBC Live at Massey Hall. Watch free on CBC Gem.
Thank you.
Well, we're pretty musically excited here in Winnipeg because today Breakout West kicks off, then will continue through the weekend. So the music festival is celebrating up-and-coming Western Canadian musicians and so much great talent playing in venues across the city as we hear so much music and original compilation. Tonight, you can catch Noah Dirksen, by the way, at Times Change. He's playing. This is his cover of Macy Gray's I Try.
Changes and fears. When will they go from here? When will they stop? I believe that fate has brought us here, and we should be together, babe. But we're not. I play it off, but I'm dreaming of you. I'll keep my cool, but I'm feeling. I try to say goodbye and I choke. I try to walk away and I stumble. Though I try to hide it, it's clear. My world crumbles when you are not near. Just a prisoner of your love, and I may seem alright and smile when you leave, but my smile is just a front. It's just a front. I play it off, but I'm dreaming of you. I keep my cool, but I'm feeding. I try to say goodbye and I choke. I try to walk away and I stumble. Though I try to hide it, it's clear. My world crumbles when you are not near. Goodbye and I choke. I try to walk away and I stumble. Though I try to hide it, it's clear. My world crumbles when you are not near. This is my confession. May I be your possession. Oh, I need your touch. Your love kisses answers. With all my might I try, but this I can't deny. I'll play it off, but I'm dreaming of you. I keep my cool, but I'm feeling. I try to say goodbye and I choke. I try to walk away and I stumble. Though I try to hide it, it's clear. My world crumbles when you are not near. Goodbye and I choke. I try to walk away and I stumble. Though I try to hide it, it's clear.
That's Manitoba showing off, in my humble opinion. I really like that cover. I know he played it before, but I can't hear it enough. That's Noah Dirksen. That's his cover of Macy Gray's I Try. Celebrating Manitoba music, upcoming artists, and also all kinds of things going on around town as Breakout West kicks off today in Winnipeg. Noah Dirksen's at Times Changed as part of that tonight. Clear and 16 degrees this Thursday morning in Winnipeg. Next on the show, outdoor play is not just for kids. It is something older adults should be doing as well. Now, that's a message from a new position paper that's coming out just today. It's from the group Outdoor Play Canada. It highlights research from all around the world on why recreational activities are vital as we age. Joining us to talk about it is Yoon Young Lee, who's an associate professor at Queen's University. Good morning.
Good morning.
So tell me a little bit about why you're focusing on play as important for adults when some adults might think, well, we've outgrown play.
Yeah, we definitely tend to think of play as just for children, but outdoor play are just as important for adults and also older adults as well. It's the one of the most accessible and affordable ways to prevent chronic disease, get some exercise, improve mood, and also stay socially connected. So it is important to play.
What are we talking about when we say play? What kinds of activities?
Yeah, for me, my favorite play is rock skipping. But it can be, gardening, hiking, group walking in parks or going on trails or just walking your dog can be play as well.
Are we looking at a certain age when you look at the recommendation here? Like, is there an age where people generally give up on play or even movement?
No, but we see definitely that there's a decline in play with age, and we want to reverse that trend. So, plays for adults and older adults as well. This position statement is for everyone, inclusive of all age groups. But we are losing the sentiment for older adults for sure. So we want to highlight that with this position statement.
Why does it matter? Will it help? Because usually we talk about movement and we're talking about physical activity because of physical benefit. But it sounds like this is also about social and mental benefit as well. Is that right?
For sure, there's social, mental benefits, there's cognitive benefits as well. Being outside can spark their curiosity and also spark their cognitive health, and also it can help with their mobility, keeping their, mobility going. And also, we are also trying to make a link with global challenges that we face. So with climate change, older adults are more vulnerable to heat. So, we're trying to encourage people to engage in active outdoor play to help build resilience, not for their health, but for dealing with climate stress as well.
How do we compare in Canada? I mean, I kind of already know the answer to this. Other countries often just outscore us like crazy in terms of physical activity.
Yeah, so in Canada, just under 50% of adults are meeting, even the proportion is even lower for children and adolescents. So we need to, fill that gap, and active outdoor play can be an accessible, really convenient way, to encourage people to be outdoors, and engage in different types of activities while having fun.
What more can be done beyond obviously this conversation, which is raising awareness about this? But it's not a new idea, of course, that people should be moving more. So where do you think we should go from here to make sure that people actually do this, play more, and think about it?
Yeah, we used to just, working together within our outdoor play sector, but now we're calling, other sectors to join our efforts and collaborate with us. So cross-sectoral collaboration is really important. So we are calling, we are making recommendations for public health, healthcare, urban planning, city planners, and the environmental sectors, communities, families, and, policy and legislation as well. So we need to create this social and physical built environment where play is just easy for everyone, everywhere.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning and telling us a bit about the research. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
That is Yoon Young Lee, who's been with us this morning, associate professor at Queen's University. We reached them this morning in Kingston. So we would wonder if you are playing, if you're listening this morning, how have you incorporated that into your own life? I think I've said this on the air before, but I mean, I play volleyball. I play in a senior women's league, and we watched ourselves go from, I think, tier 4 to tier 12. It doesn't matter. We're still out every Friday night. Everyone's aged, and we're still playing. But we talked to, we had this conversation with my team once where we were asking who else, in their adult life played, even with organized sports or not. And it was interesting because a lot of us were saying that beyond us on the team, a lot of our extended, friendships or people we talked to at work, a lot of people didn't play, just sort of, echoing what we're hearing in some of these studies. So we're wondering how you get out and move, or how you have incorporated play or sport in your life, and movement. If you have any advice or you have any thoughts, or maybe you came to it later in life, 788-3205. Business is after your CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg, and it's starting to feel cool. The wind has switched to northwesterly. It's going to be strong today, and that's going to cool us down a bit for one day. A high today of 18 under the sun, and then we warm up tomorrow right through the weekend. Child welfare officials found multiple problems with the way abuse investigations within foster homes are being handled by agencies. That is according to new documents obtained by CBC. They show every time a child abuse investigation is conducted by a CFS agency and the province reviews the findings, the documents reveal CFS agencies weren't conducting proper interviews and were putting criminal investigations at risk. Jamie Pfau is president of the Manitoba Foster Parent Association.
It's just a symptom of a much larger issue. Like, you know, the frontline workers are generally unsupported and undertrained for their roles.
The province's deputy director of the Child Protection Branch says the goal is to help agencies by finding themes in child abuse investigations. People who use the Red River worry about the city dumping sewage with higher levels of bacteria and viruses. For 3 kilometers downstream of the North End sewage treatment plant, levels could triple over the next 6 months. Officials say they have to shut off the ultraviolet sewage treatment process at the plant so they can test new gear. Nicole Richot sits along the Red River watching birds several times a week.
If people feel they can't fish anymore, it'll change all the fisher people's habits because there's so many young people and old people and all kinds of people who sit here every day and fish.
The city is notifying residents and posting signs along the Red River. It says fish won't be affected, but people should wash their hands if they touch the water, and you should keep your pets away from the river. Hope, excitement, and concern on the streets of Churchill. That northern town's nearly 100-year-old port is being touted as a potential nation-building project. CBC's Karen Pauls traveled to Churchill.
It would certainly be community changing for sure.
Joe Stover used to work at the port. Now he's in tourism. He sees the benefits of more economic development, bringing jobs and population growth. But he worries about parts of the Churchill Plus proposal, like an all-weather road.
And does it matter if the community wants it or not? If it's a nation-building project, are they just going to go ahead and build it anyway?
The proposal is being prioritized with its own business development SWAT team inside Ottawa's major projects office. Chris Avery heads the Arctic Gateway Group, which owns the port and the railway.
Developing all the plans, whether it's ice breaking on a year-round basis or the upgrade to the rail line, to all-season roads, to energy corridors.
We need to get Churchill across the finish line.
More optimism from Rebecca Chartrand, the Minister of Northern and Arctic Affairs and MP for Churchill, Keewatin-Nook-Askey.
I think there is absolutely great potential for Churchill to be announced before the Grey Cup,
which takes place November 16th in Winnipeg. Karen Pauls, CBC News, Churchill.
A northern Manitoba community is trying to get a handle on a rising drug problem by having public workers undergo mandatory testing for illegal substances. Wasagamak First Nation hired a company to test all community employees earlier this month. It is one of 4 communities in the Island Lake region dealing with an escalation in drug trafficking. Chief Walter Harper says the testing was also an opportunity to connect residents with addiction services.
We need to step forward. We need to step your foot down and say we're going to have a good working area. We're going to have a safe place. This is something that has to be done. This is what the community wants.
Harper says the community may do the testing again later this year. St. Teresa Point First Nation is rolling out voluntary testing for its workers next month. Prime Minister Mark Carney is leaving the country for another international trip. He will spend the next 2 days in London, meeting with world leaders at the Global Progress Action Summit. Carney's goal is to open new markets for Canada. Roland Paris is director of the Graduate School of Public and International Affairs at the University of Ottawa.
The summits are actually really important and a really efficient way for the Prime Minister to meet many of his international counterparts at the same place at the same time.
Over the last week, Carney has been to Mexico City and New York. You can hear the latest national and international news coming up on World Report at 7. A call to limit the right to harvest moose concerns some Indigenous groups in Manitoba. The Manitoba Wildlife Federation calls on the province to not allow rights holders to take moose in the Duck Mountain and Porcupine Forest areas. Moose population estimates in those areas fell around 50% between 2020 and 2023. But the Manitoba Métis Federation says it already closely monitors hunting practices. Peter Fleming is the MMF's Minister of Natural Resources.
One of the things that I think Manitoba Wildlife Federation seems to forget is we have harvesting rights, constitutionally protected harvesting rights to harvest. They have a privilege to harvest through a provincial tag allotment.
In a statement, Manitoba's Natural Resources and Indigenous Futures Minister Ian Bushy says the province is committed to protecting moose populations in the region, but did not commit to a hunting ban. You can find the latest news updated throughout the day at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thank you, Heather Wells.
You're welcome.
Let's get into the regional forecast now with Abby Adiyemi. Good morning.
Good morning, Marcy. We're looking at clear skies across the province. You're not going to spot lots of cloudy conditions up there. And that's going to be setting the pace for more like a sunny conditions. Most of the regions will be enjoying sunny skies, and it will feel warm with just light winds across board. We'll see some fog patches develop as we get into the overnight period. Right now, it is clear, 16 degrees, 17 degrees, some parts of Winnipeg, light northwesterly winds. Sunshine will dominate the city today through much of the day before the winds will shift to milder conditions later. We're pushing temperatures just from the 16 to about 18 degrees later today, and then more clear conditions stay into the overnight period before those fog patches will develop. Similar conditions we're seeing in the Pembina Valley region, more than Winkler, Alton, and Morris, down to the U.S. border. Also clear this morning. Temperatures near 16 degrees with gentle northwest breeze. Expect mostly a sunny day with highs close to 21 for that region. In the Westman region, we're looking at 12 degrees out towards Brandon all the way down to Nipawin. Conditions are also clear and calm this morning. Temperatures will climb to about 22 degrees by the afternoon period. It remains like that into the evening, and then you cool off to about 5 degrees later tonight. 10 degrees in Dauphin and across the Parkland region. We're talking about Russell Roblin, nearby communities. The morning is pretty clear out there. We will warm up to highs near 22 degrees, and then it stays even clear into the overnight period, cooling to 5 later in the evening. Around Gimli and the Interlake region, 14 degrees right now. Clear skies you do have. Also enjoying some cool morning. Expect a mainly sunny skies today. The breeze is going to pick up, and then we're going to see highs around 20 degrees for that part of the province. Tracking conditions into the north now. The powerful influence surrounding areas all the way to Churchill. We're seeing 8 degrees up north already, Marcy. Like every region up there. To Lake, Churchill, Thompson, all hovering around 8 degrees and 10 degrees
yesterday,
in Gillam. Yep.
Up north. Yeah.
Up north, yep. So across board, we're just expecting a mostly sunny day in the province. It's going to be feeling more like comfortable. We're now sailing into that fall feel.
Yeah, I agree with you. Thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
People continue to send us fall pics. Keep those coming on our Facebook page or email. Corey Funk, the commute.
Very quiet commute overall. Haven't heard of any major issues out there yet. But if you do see something going on, if you're walking, biking, driving, give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number, 204-788-3093.
All right. Thank you, Corey.
Thank you.
You are with CBC this morning, 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube. I'm Marcy Marcusa with our team at the show here. Hallie Cotnam, speaking of team members, is here with our business news. Hi, Hallie.
Good morning, Marcy.
So let's start with the Parliamentary Budget Officer who will reveal the state of Canada's finances this morning. What can we expect?
Yeah, this is the report coming from the fiscal watchdog, Jason Jacques, and his job is to take a really hard look at how the government spends our money. And we might have had a bit of a preview last week when he told MPs at a parliamentary committee he wasn't sure if the federal government still has fiscal anchors. Now, Jacques is filling this role on an interim basis, and in fact, his contract runs out in a few months. The opposition says his lack of job security might make it harder for him to hold the Liberals' feet to the fire. We'll know more this morning at 8 o'clock your time when that report is released.
Let's lean into another story here. Air Canada has calculated its financial hit from this summer's flight attendant strike, I understand.
Yeah, just a reminder, that strike was just 3 days long and ended on August 19th. Although, if you recall, it took a few days for everything to ramp back up to full operations. Air Canada says it lost $375 million in income and adjusted earnings because of the strike. It had to cancel 3,200 flights. It needed to shell out for customer reimbursements and compensation. That all cost $430 million, but it saved on the cost of fuel. It saved $145 million because it didn't have to fill up the gas tanks or the diesel tanks or the air jet tanks. And meanwhile, Air Canada says it is still on track to make about $3 billion in profits this year.
And a couple of weeks ago, you were talking about the value of Pokemon cards, but now something even sweeter is valuable.
Yeah, if you stashed away a few cherry blossom chocolate treats, you could be in for a payday. Now, for folks who don't remember these or aren't familiar, these are those maraschino cherries dripping in syrup surrounded by coconut and peanut infused chocolate.
Chocolate.
Folks may have made that last sound back in January. That's when Hershey announced it was discontinuing cherry blossoms. And I don't know, Marcy, if you have strong feelings about this candy. We can debate whether they were absolutely awful or good, but suffice it to say that some folks absolutely love them. And now that they're nearly gone, what's left is in high demand. There are entire Reddit threads and Facebook posts devoted to tracking down the remaining candies. There is a 24-pack of cherry blossoms on eBay. Somebody in Oakville, Ontario is asking $48,000 for them.
Come on.
Yes. Yeah. CBC reached out to the seller to try and get a sense of whether or not this was a joke. But no, they confirmed it is a legitimate listing. They're hoping that when theirs are the only cherry blossoms left, people will pay that big price tag. Another man in Gatineau, Quebec is trying to sell 8 of them on Facebook Marketplace for $100. He told CBC that he stocked up on them after hearing they were being discontinued. He started out with 15, then his daughter got into them and ate 7 of them, so he's left with just 8. Somebody in Montreal is selling 150 empty cherry blossom boxes. No candy at all in them, just those little iconic yellow boxes. He's hoping to get over $300. Calgary-based Giftly Treats is selling a 12-pack for $80 on its website. And I double-checked about a half an hour ago, Marcy, and there were something like 90 people at this early hour looking at that listing on Giftly Treats for cherry blossoms. I don't understand it, but there you go.
Okay, so you weighed in by saying you don't understand the prices.
Well,
I don't
no.
either. But what about the chocolate?
Well, I enjoy it. Yeah, I was. You know what? I remember letting the cherry and all the syrup sort of drain out and eating the chocolate part, which I thought was exceptionally good.
You could almost hear that thing eating away at your teeth.
It's
right?
true.
Like it was the thickness of it was almost like an icing and then also like a syrup and then also that cherry. Like I'm sure part of me is dead because of those things because I like them.
Okay. Okay. All right. I didn't know where you were going with that.
Yeah.
But,
I like them. But I'm not paying $48,000 for anything that is the chocolate bar.
I'm curious to know whether there are convenience stores or what have you in Winnipeg that still have a few. If I were you guys, I'd head out and get them.
I'm hitting the giant tiger after this report. All right. Thank you, Hallie. I know you're not here tomorrow. We're not either, actually. Corey and I are going to be hitting the road. We have a special remote coming up for Truth and Reconciliation Day. So we will talk to you next week.
Okay, fabulous. Take care, Marcy.
You too. That's Hallie Cottenham with our business news. So where are Corey and I going to be? Well, Communities in Focus from CBC Manitoba. You might know this initiative. We go out to different communities all over this province and we broadcast live shows. We also have a team of CBC Manitoba journalists that hit the ground and listen to community about what stories they want to share. And we do this because we follow the news here, but we don't want to be there in moments of news all the time. We want to be there just to listen and to learn about community. So that's Communities in Focus. So on Tuesday, we are going to be live for the Orange Shirt Day, Truth and Reconciliation Day, at OCN. So we're going to be in Opaskwayak Cree Nation, which is, of course, just right over the bridge from the Paw. Really looking forward to our live program. And if you are up around that area and you're an early riser, we will hope to see you. We're going to plan to be just outside the Veterans Hall. We know they're setting up a teepee for some of their things that they're doing on Tuesday for September 30th. So we're hoping that we'll be able to be inside that teepee for just a special moment of programming on Tuesday. But I also just want to shout out our other teammates who are going to be going up earlier. They will go Friday to OCN, and and start listening and learning. So they are Austin Shebakigat, as well as Sierra Sanders, Felicia Adam, Travis Golby, our videographer, and then Nadia Kidwai, who is our producer. So that is all happening in OCN. Right now, let's talk about some of the reaction to the recent comments made by the U.S. ambassador to Canada. Last week at an event in Halifax, Pete Hoekstra said he was disappointed by Canada's, quote, anti-American, quote, elbows up attitude. He also pointed out that Canada has dropped counter tariffs on some American goods, and the federal government has rescinded the digital services tax that would have hit U.S. giants like Amazon and Google. Now, that got CBC's Andrew Lamb wondering if the ambassador is right. Should Canada take a softer approach to U.S. President Trump? What do you think? CBC's Andrew Lamb was wondering, so he hit the street to talk to Canadians.
So what do you think? Do you think we should be taking, as Canada, a more forceful approach to President Trump, or maybe a softer, more appeasing approach?
I think a forceful approach is the only thing that's going to really land with him, just where he's such a strong personality.
I think that at this point you can only really push back on strength. With strength, I think that kind of the best approach is to not play his games and play into his hand. So, yeah, I think we need to continue this, stay forceful. Because when he gets what he wants, he tends to continue to push the limit. However, on the other hand, he responds to strength for the most part, with at least some modicum of respect. So
I definitely don't think that we should appease to him and what he's been doing. But I also feel like we don't want to counter too hard.
I think we should take a more appeasing approach for sure. Because, they're going to just win at any cost. They have a lot more power than us, so we should just play along with what they're doing and try to maintain a more happy relationship with them.
Not to appease him necessarily, but I think if with force, he doesn't respond well to that, so we have to be smarter than he is. So I think it's kind of being more kind of diplomatic.
The ambassador said he's disappointed with the anti-American sentiment from Canadians and that it's hard to find people who are passionate about the American relationship these days. What do you think about that?
It's hard to be passionate about that relationship, I think, because as of right now, there's a lot of financial struggles that are being caused by this strife between the countries. We're noticing it in terms of our unemployment rate. We're noticing it in our grocery prices. So our day-to-day lives are kind of being affected by this. So we probably have, unfortunately, a pretty skewed view of them now.
I mean, realistically, I think that that's on them. They, with the rhetoric, with the 51st state, I think they should probably, maybe not expect it, but they should understand that we're coming from a position of reacting to how, what the way they're talking to and about us. Personally, I didn't have any issues with America before any of the rhetoric with the 51st state, and while I didn't appreciate Trump being voted into office, I had hope that relations between the countries would be all right despite that. But the way they've treated us since has kind of left a bad taste in mine, probably a lot of other people's mouths.
So those are some Canadians' thoughts when in conversation on the streets with CBC's Andrew Lamb, talking about the U.S. ambassador to Canada's recent comments about anti-American sentiment and asking how the Canadian government should approach our relationship with the American administration. So some people weighing in. For the latest national and international news, by the way, that's coming up here on CBC this morning on World Report. So it's 11 minutes to 7 o'clock and it'll be up at the top of the clock. And then a little later, we're continuing our series that we've been doing, important conversations from Manitoba perspectives about bail reform. Now, we've had a number of people weigh in already. We have heard from one of the top justices in this province who called it a complex issue when you're looking at bail plans and how to achieve them, especially if people are living with addiction issues and looking at resources. Also, we heard from a defense attorney who also would like to see some bail reform, but said it's not as simple as just putting more people behind bars. If you have a bail plan to rehabilitate someone and you don't have resources, kind of echoing what the justice said, where do you go from there? We also heard from Mayor Scott Gillingham.
Respectfully, tell the people of Hollow Water it's working. Tell the people whose family members have been killed or victimized by someone who's out on bail when they commit their crime. It's not working.
The mayor was pushing back there when challenged that statistically, when you look at people who are, breaching bail, the numbers don't necessarily bear out to correlate that to what we're seeing in terms of violence in community. But he was pointing out to some recent events that we've had, tragedies in our province, where people who were accused were out on bail. So we're continuing this discussion, and it's a complex one. Today we talked to someone who works with youth about the impact of crime and bail, both on the perpetrators who they work with, but also on community members that they work with. So we have a two-part interview with the leader at Inner City Youth Alive coming up.
We carry a world of information in our pockets because we want to know. It's news you can trust, delivered when you want and where you want on Canada's News app. Now with CBC Radio 1, local and live. Download the CBC News app for free.
I see purple and pink and a tie-dye sky out there this morning if you're watching what's going on in the forecast today in the sky over downtown Winnipeg. If you are watching us on YouTube, make sure you say hello to Brad Lillies, who's our producer of our CBC stream. 16 degrees, by the way, in Winnipeg. Well, we often think of cybersecurity as something that affects our email or bank accounts, but there are much bigger targets in this country that are more vulnerable, from power grids and water plants and hospitals and telecom networks, even our airports. And Canada's not alone in that. This past weekend, a cyber attack crippled check-in systems at major European airports. It left thousands of travelers stranded. So how serious could this be, and what does it mean for our safety? Our tech columnist is Francis Sim. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So this sounds like something out of a James Bond movie, but we know it's not. Cyber criminals attacking big infrastructure. How at risk are we?
Increasingly, it's becoming more severe. For the longest time, cyber attacks focused primarily on the digital world. Right? So they would attackers would try to get into your bank account, which is terrible, and nobody wants that to happen. But now we're starting to see that transition from the digital to the physical, and we're starting to see it first in our hospitals. There's stories all around the country increasingly about organizations, criminals getting in, doing a ransomware attack on some system that's being used to schedule patient surgeries or appointments or identify what their prescription needs to be and what dose to give those patients. And so as we start to connect everything to the internet, which is what we Canadians love to do and everybody in the world loves to do, we're putting vulnerabilities out and exposing them to all these criminals all around the world.
I'll ask you in a moment to elaborate on what other systems might be vulnerable, but I'm interested in the hospital, example, mostly because it feels to me like how would you possibly benefit from creating chaos in the hospital and changing surgery outcomes? Are we seeing people who are attacking in this way right now trying to sort of show their muscle, or are they just practicing what they could do on a bigger scale?
I think that's very insightful. I think there's a number of factors here. Definitely practice makes perfect. And so attackers are trying, part of what they do is they do the surveillance and the aggregation of data. And then they try to see, once they get a package of data, they pair that with the tools they create and then look to see how they can get into organizations. They test it out with low-hanging fruit, maybe municipal systems, maybe hospitals. I mean, one of the things about hospitals is that we haven't resourced our hospitals from an IT perspective well enough because the resources, the money and the time have gone towards helping patients. So they're low hanging fruit, but they're also high value targets. If you were a criminal and you wanted to make money, well, one of the things you could do is get into a hospital, lock up the systems and delay surgeries. And then there's a huge incentive to pay that money. We've seen that in some hospitals across the country because those surgeries need to continue and you need to help those patients that might otherwise become very ill or unfortunately die without that support. Or if you're a nation state, you go in and attack a hospital, it sows distrust. People are not confident in the government anymore. They think they don't know what they're doing. So there's lots of different reasons, but the hospitals are definitely one of the first lines of defense for us right now.
So what other systems could be most at risk, and how could they affect the lives of everyday Canadians if they were to be attacked?
Yeah, so utility companies are a big one, power companies, and we think that there's tens of thousands of attempted attacks every single year. But luckily in Canada, we've not actually heard of anything successful other than Nova Scotia Power. There was a breach and customer information was breached. But in no situation has the power gone down in the middle of winter, which would be catastrophic. You imagine in the middle of winter at minus 30 degrees in Winnipeg, the power going down. That would be problematic. But we have seen other situations like co-op grocery stores in Saskatchewan that were using this inventory management system. That was attacked under ransomware. And then some of the grocery stores, the shelves started to go bare. And truckers that were using this card lock system to pay for gas, that went down as well. And so it's a strange thing because you think, okay, how can a cyber attack take food off my grocery store shelves? But if you're relying on this centralized software that you bought and that software is attacked and you don't know how to do it with pen and paper anymore, or you can't do it with pen and paper, that's problematic.
So what do we do about this? What do you think? How should Canada be preparing itself or to be stronger and to be safer?
Yeah, so I think first of all, we need to be paying attention to AI. AI is an emerging threat because everything is being connected to the internet, like our EVs. But AI, in the last 2 days, there was this crazy video, 20 million views of the CN Tower burning, and it was completely fake, shared like 20,000 times on Facebook. Viewers can look up the story on CBC, watch the video, and it shows the power of AI to convince people, because most attacks start with social engineering. And so I think all listeners need to pay attention to is that if you get a call from your boss saying, please pay that account, that invoice, think about it, because it might be good to double check that was actually your boss, because the deep fakes like this video I talked about are just everywhere. People can clone people's voices now. And if the government is very focused on developing standards, obviously, around cybersecurity, but they need to support our hospitals and our local communities because they're not resourced to actually have IT departments. And so if you're a municipality, I would agree. I would say you go after your government officials and tell them you need that help. I wouldn't be shy about it, and I wouldn't say it looks like you're immature. We need that help everywhere. And think about what you put on the internet, right? You don't necessarily need every single server on the internet or device. Even though it's nice to work from home all the time, it's not necessarily safe, because a lot of those things, 40-year-old systems weren't designed for that. And then if you're at home, one of the things that I always say to people is you have to use MFA. It drives us all bananas, right? Having to do the code 3 or 4 times. But that's like the last line of defense sometimes between you and the hacker in your bank account.
Thank you very much for this, Francis. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Anytime. Thank you.
I will not be watching any of those movies now, by the way. A little too close to reality these days, as Francis is outlining some of those risks. Francis Sims is Associate Dean of the Faculty of Applied Sciences and Technology at Humber Polytechnic and a contributor to CBC around tech issues. All right, 3 minutes to 7 o'clock Thursday morning. Heather Wells is here with headlines.
Well, child welfare officials reveal major concerns about the way CFS agencies are conducting child abuse investigations at foster homes. That's according to documents obtained by CBC. Those documents show multiple times over a 4-year period where provincial officials found flaws when a child abuse investigation is conducted by a CFS agency. We'll hear more about that coming up. And strong hints this morning about the proposal to turn Churchill's port into one of the Prime Minister's nation-building projects. The Minister of Northern and Arctic Affairs, Rebecca Chartrand, says there is great potential for the Churchill Port project to be announced before the Grey Cup in November. Those stories and more coming up in our next local news at 7:30.
Thank you, Heather.
Thanks.
In Winnipeg, clear 16 degrees. We're only going to 18 today, but a nice sunny day. It's going to be windy, though. Winds northwest 30 to 50. Your commute's fine so far, so good, so early under that beautiful clear sky. And you can call Corey if you have a problem. 788-3093, and we'll pass it along. In the next hour of the show, a conversation with a new head coach of the University of Manitoba women's hockey team. We'll hear her what drew her to the school, also her plans for the program and for developing the sport and the players. In addition, more on the story Heather was mentioning. We actually are going to hear from the someone who's involved with Manitoba Foster Parent Association this morning about her reaction to the news of the children who were sent to hospital. And unfortunately, she says, well, it's devastating. One of her perspectives is that it is not surprising. So we're going to find out why. In addition, in the next hour, our ongoing conversations about bail reform continue. How complicated does that get when you're with Inner City Youth Alive? We're going to talk to the executive director over there, who says at one point they had one youth who actually had killed another youth. So you're supporting both victim and obviously the accused or perpetrator. It might be cut and dry in court. It's not at the community level. Stay tuned.
Today on The Current.
Canada's economy is struggling to adjust to tariffs and global shifts. We'll hear from a series of business leaders about what this country needs to do to thrive, and we begin with the lentil king of Saskatchewan, Murad Al-Khatib.
You know, what we've got is we've got a situation where there's kind of a global reset of the world order of trade.
The Current with Matt Galloway. This morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm John Northcott. The president of the Palestinian Authority, Mahmoud Abbas, will address the UN General Assembly today. UN members voted to let Abbas speak via video link after he was barred from entering the U.S. by President Donald Trump's administration. As Sasha Petrusek reports, the speech by Abbas comes at a crucial moment for Palestinian statehood.
La vida del pueblo palestino.
At the UN, one world leader after another endorses Palestinian statehood and pushes for an immediate end to the Gaza war. But the Israeli leader fighting it rejects all of that. Condemning support for a Palestinian state, Benjamin Netanyahu vows this will not happen. He's on his way to New York to speak tomorrow and to consult with U.S. President Donald Trump on how Israel should respond. Jewish settlers want him to annex all of the occupied West Bank immediately in defiance of international law. On a big screen at the UN, Abbas applauded countries supporting a Palestinian state, including Canada, earlier this week. He's already been banned from the U.S. by a president who opposes recognition.
We have to stop the war in Gaza immediately. We have to stop it.
Trump strongly backs Israel, but U.S. officials say he's presented a new 21-point plan to end the war. It reportedly calls for the release of all hostages and a new government in Gaza that excludes Hamas. He's also met with Muslim countries like Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and Indonesia, trying to get commitments to join a new peacekeeping force once fighting stops. That seems far off as streams of Palestinians continue to flee from fighting in Gaza City, where an Israeli ground assault escalates. Sasha Petrusek, CBC News, Jerusalem.
Prime Minister Mark Carney is heading off on his next international trip later today to the United Kingdom. Carney is aiming to attract investment and strengthen ties that he argues are key to securing Canada's future. But there's a project that could soon get the green light here at home that will also increase and diversify trade with Europe. Northern Manitoba's Port of Churchill is the only deepwater Arctic port in North America that is also accessible by rail. The Churchill Plus proposal would upgrade the 100-year-old port's infrastructure. People there say they would love to see more jobs, but there is concern the expansion will jeopardize their tourism industry and unique way of life. Karen Pauls has more.
If you look to the left of that red buoy,
Erin Green stands on the beach and points at beluga whales in the Churchill River.
there's two right there.
She owns Sup North, a paddleboard tour company.
It's an incredibly special place for them. It is their safety, and we're putting that sense of safety in jeopardy.
Climate change means new shipping lanes to Europe and beyond are emerging in the Arctic. It's why the Port of Churchill, Canada's only deepwater Arctic port connected by railway, is being considered as one of the Prime Minister's nation-building projects. Rebecca Chartrand is the Minister of Northern and Arctic Affairs and MP for the Churchill-Kiiwetinoong riding.
I think there is absolutely great potential for Churchill to be announced before the Grey Cup.
Green understands the need for economic development, but worries the sound from construction and more commercial shipping will harm the whales.
Their world being destroyed by sound and a lot more activity.
Officials are trying to calm those fears.
I think that balance is critical.
Chris Avery heads the Arctic Gateway Group, a partnership of 29 First Nations and 12 communities in Manitoba and Nunavut, which own the port and the railway.
The Port of Churchill has been here for almost 100 years. There was much more volume through the port than there is today, and that coexisted very well with the environment as well.
A delicate balance between the environment and economic development. Karen Pauls, CBC News, Churchill, Manitoba.
We're expecting to hear more today about the future of Canada Post. The minister responsible, Joel Lightbound, is expected to announce new measures to address the financial challenges faced by the Crown Corporation. This comes as Canada Post remains at the bargaining table with the union representing its workers, trying to avert another labour dispute. Let's bring in Janice McGregor from our Parliamentary Bureau. Janice, why is the minister stepping in now?
John, Canada Post is facing an existential crisis, or at least that was the conclusion reached by veteran mediator William Kaplan. After a strike and a lockout left Canadians without postal services in the run-up to the critical holiday delivery season last year, the Labour Minister appointed Kaplan to lead a commission of industrial inquiry to examine the Crown Corporation's future and figure out why the two sides were so far apart in collective bargaining. His report concluded that Canada Post is effectively insolvent, bankrupt, with no immediate prospects for improvement. Canadians send fewer and fewer letters. Competition from unregulated, sometimes non-unionized, even gig worker parcel delivery services is surging. Meanwhile, government directives don't allow the post office to cut costs by closing rural offices or switching more neighborhoods over to community mailboxes, for example. Last January, the government floated Canada Post with $1 billion lifeline loan to keep things going in the short term. But they still haven't concluded a new collective agreement with postal workers. The federal government's under huge financial pressures, leading up to what we expect will be a fall budget full of austerity measures. Something's got to give in this new plan today.
Well, Janice, how could this impact ongoing collective bargaining?
Well, the Postal Workers Union has already been out saying that today's announcement caught them by surprise. They were expecting to receive a new offer at the table from Canada Post tomorrow, after their members voted to reject the management's previous offer over 50 days ago. In return for wage increases, the latest offer from the union side was willing to allow for the hiring of part-time weekend delivery workers, but unionized workers are currently refusing to deliver lucrative flyer mail in an attempt to apply pressure to the talks. So far, CUPW has been unwilling to accept what Canada Post says it needs to do to overhaul its business.
Janice McGregor in Ottawa. Thanks, Janice.
You're welcome.
An inmate accused of murdering notorious serial killer Robert Pickton in a prison attack last year is expected to plead guilty today. Martin Charest is to appear in a Quebec court. He's accused of attacking Pickton with a broken broomstick in May of last year. Pickton was found guilty of 6 counts of second-degree murder in 2007 for killing women he had lured to his Vancouver area pig farm. Pickton later confessed to killing dozens of others. In all, 49 women were killed. Former French President Nicolas Sarkozy is going to prison, even as he vows to appeal his conviction. This morning, Sarkozy was sentenced to 5 years after being found guilty of criminal conspiracy.
Ce qui s'est passé aujourd'hui.
Sarkozy addressing reporters last hour following the verdict. He maintains his innocence, saying he will, quote, sleep in prison, but with head held high. The former leader was accused of receiving millions of euros in financing from late Libyan dictator Muammar Gaddafi, leading up to Sarkozy's successful 2007 presidential bid. Quebec is eliminating the use of gender-neutral language in official government communications, saying it's a question of upholding proper French grammar. Words are gendered in French. Some people have adopted the use of yell, which means they, to represent their non-binary status. Sarah Levitt has more.
I don't want to exclude anybody.
Quebec's Minister for the French Language, Jean-François Roberge, says a change in how the government communicates is not a question of discrimination, but to maintain proper French. In the language, certain words like nouns are gendered, le, masculine, or la, feminine. In the past decade or so, some non-binary people have adopted the word yel as an identifier instead of elle for her or il for him. But Robert says government communication needs to be streamlined, and writing gender-neutral French is no easy task.
Every word has a gender. The table in English, in French, is la table. Table is feminine.
But some say comparing a table to a person's gender identity is not only disrespectful, but dangerous. Victoria Legault is the executive director of an organization that helps trans people in Quebec.
He's sending the message that these people that use the pronouns yel are just not valid or are not free to exist.
The government says it's not excluding the possibility of extending the same language rules to schools, but it does say individuals can still get the designation of X on their government IDs, like driver's licenses and health cards. Sarah Levitt, CBC News, Montreal.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. Remember, for news anytime, go to our website, cbcnews.ca. I'm John Northcott. This is CBC News.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio live on CBC. We're in downtown Winnipeg on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube. No fog this morning, 16 in Winnipeg. Pretty clear across the province. Also, a special good morning to our national folks. CBC Newsnet's live in Steinbach right now. This hour on the program, we're going to be talking about a devastating story that was in the news. As you may have been hearing, two foster parents do now face criminal charges after being accused of assaulting children in their care. We're going to hear from another longtime foster parent in this province that said while she found this devastating, she did not find it surprising. She believes it highlights gaps in our child welfare systems. And you heard from the advocate this week who said those gaps have existed for years. She was thinking about 20 years ago and the death of little Phoenix St. Clair. So we have that conversation coming up. I also want to highlight we begin rolling out a part of a two-part interview this half hour on the show with Kent Duick of Inner City Youth Alive. He's going to weigh in on our series on bail reform. And he says it's complicated, especially at the community level where you often are working with and having compassion for young people who commit crimes and sometimes crimes involving violence, but you also are seeing the impact on community for other young people who just want to go to school safely and be in community safely. So really interesting conversation with Kent about what this is like in Winnipeg, and that's coming up. Right now, Heather Wells joins us with our news headlines this Thursday morning. Hi there.
Hi. Well, people who use the Red River worry the city will dump sewage with bacteria and viruses over the next 6 months. Levels, in fact, could triple for 3 kilometers downstream of the North End sewage treatment plant. Officials say they have to shut off the ultraviolet sewage treatment process at that North End wastewater plant so they can test some new equipment. We'll hear from some people who use the river coming up. And a northern Manitoba community is trying to get a handle on a rising drug problem by having public workers undergo mandatory testing for illegal substances. We'll take you to Wasagamak First Nation in our next local news coming up at 7:30.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Abby's got your forecast.
Yeah, the sun already making its way across a lot of regions in the northern part of the province. We're seeing plenty of sunshine in the forecast today, though the winds will be picking up at some spots. Winnipeg right now, we're seeing 15 to 17 degrees depending on where you are in the city. Mainly clear out there. Sunshine will dominate the day with some breezy winds coming from the northwest. The highs will get to 18 degrees, and that's what we're seeing in other southern parts of the province. Up north, the powerful influence Thompson Churchill, we're seeing 8 degrees there. There's going to be a mix of sun and clouds later and a small chance of showers into the afternoon period. Highs will be between 3 and 10 degrees. But for Winnipeg, we are currently around 15 degrees and we warm up to 18 today.
All right. Thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
You bored, Corey Funk, or what?
Yeah, it's been really quiet out there.
A good boredom?
Yeah, it's a good kind of boredom. Lots of other things to do anyway, so I don't mind. But it has been very quiet. Haven't heard of any major issues out there on the roads. But if you are walking, biking, driving, you see something, you can just give me a call on that CBC commuter line. I'll let folks know what you're seeing. That number, 204-788-3093.
Well, bail reform has been a big topic of discussion lately, and we've been looking at that from multiple perspectives from here in Manitoba on our show. In Ottawa, the Conservative opposition right now is calling on the Carney government to implement a 3 strikes and you're out law after a recent slew of crimes, though, here in our province, where the accused were in fact out on bail. Some of were allegedly committed, as I mentioned, by people who have offended before. It has our community really leaning into this. Winnipeg Mayor Scott Gillingham says we need to rethink our bail system.
Respectfully, tell the people of Hollow Water it's working. I'm glad that it's statistically, more often than not, people don't commit a crime, but where they do, they leave in their wake victims, communities that are victimized, the innocent public that are victimized. This is about the people of Winnipeg. This is about public safety. It's about public safety for the people of this province and this nation. The bail laws need to change.
Now, sometimes the people impacted by our bail system are, of course, youth, both the offender and the people in community. Kent Duick says the system is not doing enough to support them, and that affects young people both in and out of jail. He's executive director and founder of Inner City Youth Alive in Winnipeg. I spoke with him earlier this week. Now, this is part 1 of our conversation.
Good morning, Marcy.
So why do you think the current bail system isn't supporting youth? In what ways?
Well, you kind of it's you feel it in the community. We have so many youth that talk about crime and kind of how they navigate around it in the community, and so what happens when you have crime that goes unpunished is then you sort of create a sense of powerlessness in the community, where people feel like, so if I report crime, nothing will happen. We have, and then you get sort of the legendary stories in the community of like vigilante stuff going on, or, you have kind of at the higher level, at the political level and at the legislative level, there's, laws that are sort of being reworked and rejigged. And I guess the last was Bill C-48, with, kind of that reverse onus that happened in January of 2024, I believe. But in the community, it's more felt. They're really having to sort of remake their lives to adapt around the fact that even a walk to school could be dangerous, and so that's more the side that we hear about. We have one of our staff that does walk with youth through the court system, and but most of our work is just directly in community.
So you're talking about people needing, as you said, people that aren't feeling safe. So you think that the bail system isn't supporting youth? I'm just going to return to that question so I'm clear. You're not talking about youth that have been accused of crimes. You're talking about just youth in community.
Yeah, youth and community, and I think that's I've talked about kind of the sort of the increased sort of tension or hypervigilance in the community where it's known. We have youth that have maybe committed what we know to be a violent crime, and when we ask them, we notice that they're released. We ask them how it is they're released. They don't even know. So they're saying they don't understand, given the severity of the crime they committed, how on earth they could be released. And that too is what I hear. Like, I have this funny dynamic where I'll have sometimes people from police will call me, or fire paramedic, and tell me kind of what's going on the ground. And and the police have told me that one of the most common statements made when they arrest somebody is, "I'll be out before you're off shift."
So we heard about these 4 teens earlier this month in Winnipeg, age 13 to 17. They were caught with backpacks with goods from Walmart at Unicity, trying to leave. One of the youth pulled out that CO2 gun. People likely recall this story on a security guard and it shot at him when confronted. What was your reaction when you heard about that incident?
I mean, it's predictable. Like, again, if we have this environment where no one's sort of taking charge, then if there's no sort of negative feedback loop for somebody that commits a crime, then it will escalate. And we know that about something like violence, for example. Rarely does anybody go from having had no incidents of violence to having committed murder. And it always sort of, it's incremental, it grows. And so if those patterns aren't arrested, if there's not some kind of a circuit breaker in the patterns, then it will escalate. And so So I guess, the situation with these youth that committed this crime at Walmart, and then the level to which they were going to defend themselves, like including a gun, that kind of goes out in the ether and is heard in the community, and it sends a message, like there's no consequence. And I hope that this is dealt with. And it's strange, Marcy, because I walk in this weird space where I'm like, I have compassion for people who commit crime, because I have lots of friends we know here in the community that have committed violent crime. But when you get to know somebody, nobody is sort of defined by the worst thing they've ever done. And often that crime comes from a place of hurt or, powerlessness. And again, it doesn't dismiss it. So I walk in this space where I'm sympathetic to people who get caught up in violence, but I'm also intimately connected, and we're intimately connected to the victims of violence. And so it's just the most awkward space. I guess, maybe in the judicial system, you'll have one person representing the criminal, one person representing the witness. And so you get kind of this I guess, failure to really understand each other. And we're kind of in that space. We've even dealt with situations where one of the youth that we care about murdered another youth that we care about. And so then it kind of creates a space where you have to just hold all of it. And then, we're just desperately looking for some sane path forward where there's no more victims.
Can I ask you about the use of the word circuit breaker? You're talking about, how to stop that cycle. When you hear from youth that and they say to you, as you alluded in the interview, I can't make sense of why I'm out, for example. What do you think the circuit breaker would be so that a reoffense doesn't happen? Whether or not just a reoffense or whether a breach of bail with an offense?
Well, what many friends in the community talk about is that, when youth are talking about a peer who's maybe been incarcerated, the common sort of statement is, well, good, maybe they can rethink things and maybe they can reset. Sometimes if there's addictions involved, then incarceration can actually mean a chance to dry up and to rethink their life direction. And so in the community, jail sometimes is seen as a relief. And there too, so if somebody's out in community and escalating, then say, for example, I've been a big proponent on the issue of absenteeism. There's going to be some very exciting news coming out about that this week. But then if that individual who's committing violence is also attending school, often that means that 3 or 4 families will not attend school. So we don't think about that cascading effect of that offender out in the community.
That's part one of my conversation with Kent Duick, the executive director and founder of Inner City Youth Alive. After 8 o'clock, the second part of our conversation, Kent and I are going to talk about what happens behind bars, the danger of young people being taught, quote unquote, to be better criminals while being in jail, but also resources that are needed in jail or in community if true reform is going to happen. It's 7:23 a.m. on 89.3. Let's lean into a serious story here, another serious story here developing in Manitoba. As you've been hearing in the news, 2 foster parents do face criminal charges after being accused of assaulting children in their care. One child went to hospital in critical condition and is suffering life-altering injuries. Another showed signs of being assaulted. A woman who herself has fostered kids for over a decade in this province had this reaction.
When there is a tragedy that happens, like the one that happened last week, of course it's devastating, but am I in any way surprised by this? No, this is a symptom of the system that we are trying to exist in.
More conversation with her coming up after your 7:30 news.
The night lights up with Arch in the Exchange, and After Dark will be there. Winnipeg, this is Odario Williams, and I will be spinning tunes for a special recording of After Dark, just outside of Art Space for Nuit Blanche, September 27th. Art, music, dance all night. Nuit Blanche, proudly sponsored by CBC. Just visit cbc.ca/Manitoba/community for details.
Opaskwayak Cree Nation, let's talk. CBC wants to get to know you a little better. I'm Felicia Adam. CBC's Communities in Focus is coming to OCN September 27th to October 1st. What do you want us to know about your community? What stories are we missing? I can't wait to meet you. Communities in Focus. Visit cbc.ca/Manitoba/community for details.
Well, I'll tell you what, we do have just a light low-lying cloud that could be seen as fog this morning, but nothing like yesterday. We can actually look out our studio window and see Portage Avenue and the cars going by and see all the buildings clearly and such. There were some gorgeous photos of that spooky morning we had yesterday, but today it's going to be much better for your drive as well. It was pretty hazardous out there, a little bit tricky on the highways especially. This morning in Winnipeg, we will be mainly sunny for the morning and for most of the day, in fact. It's going to be a windy Thursday, though, in the city. So winds are going to be northwest, 30 gusting to 50. A high of 18 degrees. Right now in the city, we're at 15 degrees. Looking around the province, pretty straight ahead in Brandon, clear and 10 degrees. You'll be sunny and a high of 22 today. It won't be as windy for you as it is here in Winnipeg. And then we are looking up to Thompson, where you also have a sunny day expected for you and a high of 16 degrees in Thompson today. So that rounds out our forecast. If you are wondering what is coming up here on the program, I've been mentioning our conversations about bail reform, but we also have been having some conversation with some of the newer leadership in our community. And one of those leaders is going to join us after your 7:30 news. And that is the new head coach of the University of Manitoba women's hockey team. Now, she's been acting in the position, but she's now been officially named. We'll hear more about what drew her to Manitoba to coach, also about her plans for the program. So stay tuned for that conversation. And speaking of sports, Scott Reguer joins us now with an update on the Thursday morning sports scene. Hi there.
Hey there, Marcy.
So let's start with one of the worst Blue Jays skids of the season. Last night, this game against Boston, and it's coming at exactly the wrong time.
Yeah, that loss to the Red Sox, 7-1. Toronto's sixth defeat in their last 7 games. Meanwhile, Marcy, the Yankees are going in the other direction. They have tied the Jays now for first place in the division. Anyone's guess now who's going to claim the AL East and the first round bye in the playoffs it would provide. Judging by the Jays' dried-up offense, though, and their recent demeanor on the field, they probably shouldn't be favored to do it. Last night was the third game in a row, Marcy, Toronto had issues with umpires. Vladdy Guerrero Jr. and hitting coach Dave Popkins both got ejected for arguing balls and strikes. Manager John Schneider was asked whether his team is getting the short end of the umping stick.
First and foremost, I mean, we're not losing because of umpires. Let's get that out there. This is Vlad. He's our guy, and you want to defend him, but I don't want to feed into the narrative that the umpires are screwing us because we're not scoring enough runs. I think our guys know that. So does the frustration boil over a little bit? Yeah, they're competitive, but it's not a singular pitch here or there that's dooming the Blue Jays.
The Jays back at it again tonight against Boston. They'll have Louis Varland, normally a reliever, on the mound. This is a so-called bullpen game, which is not ideal when you're in the final week of the season playing for a division title. Mind you, it's bound to be an improvement on what we saw from Max Scherzer on the mound last night. That was a very rough opening inning for the veteran. Meanwhile, Jays playoff tickets go on sale this morning. Another unfortunate bit of timing when it comes to this poor run of form.
It's interesting. My husband's analysis walking into the house last night. I was making dinner. He was a bit late coming home. And I said, okay, let's barbecue some burgers. I said, we'll put the Jays game on. And he's like, ugh. I'm like, what? He's like, Scherzer, turn on the TV. So
first inning, Scherzer, yes.
Rough. All right, let's go to the fairways now and some thinly veiled critiques at the Ryder Cup.
Yeah, they were provided yesterday, Marcy, by European captain Luke Donald. In the close to century-long existence of this event, which pits the best from the U.S. against the best from across the pond, players have never been paid. But that is changing at this weekend's tournament in New York. All 12 of the American players and their captain, Keegan Bradley, are to receive $500,000, much of which is meant to go to a charity of their choice. Luke Donald, though, says his European squad has different motivations.
We come to you this week, not just as individual players from 9 different nations, but as one team. A team defined by belief that we are playing for something far greater than ourselves. We are fueled by something money cannot buy. Purpose, brotherhood, and a responsibility to honor those who came before us, while inspiring those whose time is yet to come.
Given all the players involved at the Ryder Cup are millionaires many times over, many beyond just Luke Donald are questioning why compensation is necessary. It's supposed to be about national rivalries, after all. Xander Schauffele is not one of the players with that mindset. The U.S. star says that he's not required to. He's going to donate all of his $500,000 stipend to charity, and he says the media is trying to make the issue a quote-unquote negative thing.
Let's finish with amateur sports, shall we? In this case, Canada's women's rugby team.
Yeah, who will play Saturday in the World Cup final, Marcy, against England. While the English side is comprised of pros, the Canadians largely rely on government assistance. When federally funded Rugby Canada could not support the team to the extent the players felt they needed, they jointly launched a fundraiser called Mission Win Rugby World Cup 2025. It helped raise an extra $1 million, and Canada's most tenured player, Tyson Bukaboom, says it was vital to their success.
We as players came back to them and said, we need more. We need more time together, and time means money. So we worked together to figure out how to make that happen, and that was the crowdfunding that we came up with, the Mission to Win Rugby World Cup. Because of that support from Rugby Canada and then our fans, we got the time that we needed, and it worked. We're in the final. Look at us, and now it's just on us to finish the job.
And if you're wondering, in rugby, there's no prize money doled out to either the women's or men's world champions.
All right, thanks, Scott.
You bet.
Your CBC Winnipeg News is next.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 7:30, the temperature has been sliding all morning. We're now 15 degrees. Sunny day on the way. That wind, though, is what's cooling us down. From the northwest, 30 gusting to 50. We do warm back up again starting tomorrow. Child welfare officials reveal major concerns about the way CFS agencies are conducting child abuse investigations at foster homes. That is according to documents obtained by CBC. The documents show multiple times over a 4-year period where provincial officials found flaws when a child abuse investigation is conducted by a CFS agency. This included key witnesses not being interviewed and investigations being closed improperly. Jamie Pfau is the president at the Manitoba Foster Parent Association.
Is upsetting and disappointing, but not truly surprising, just because of the sheer number of children in care.
The province's deputy director of the Child Protection Branch says agencies have been given training in interviewing children and forensic child abuse training. She says they use their reviews to drive change in the system. People who use the Red River worry the city will dump sewage with more bacteria and viruses over the next 6 months. Levels could triple for 3 kilometers downstream of the North End sewage treatment plant. Officials say they have to shut off the ultraviolet sewage treatment process at the North End wastewater plant so they can test new equipment. Rem Capina was fishing with his son and granddaughter in the affected area.
Because people uses the river, it's like those guys using the boat, and then some people swims, this river is going to go to the lake eventually. It's going to go on our beaches, so people swim in there. That's so gross.
The city is notifying residents and posting signs along the Red River. It says people should wash their hands if they touch the water and keep pets away from the river. Strong hints this morning about the proposal to turn Churchill's port into one of the Prime Minister's nation-building projects.
There is absolutely great potential for Churchill to be announced before the Grey Cup.
That is Rebecca Chartrand, Minister for Northern and Arctic Affairs and MP for Churchill, Kiiwetinoong-Aski. In Churchill, hope and excitement, but also concern. Expansion of the port and a longer shipping season will create jobs, but also jeopardize tourism, the polar bears and beluga whales. Jeremy Allen, owner of the On the Land Adventures, has mixed feelings.
Half the town currently is unemployed, and the reason for that is because the port's not the booming place that it used to be, where a majority of the people in town came up here to work there, and a lot of these families relied on it for their income. And now, with nowhere to work, people are left in rough places, I guess. Economically, it would be great, but environmentally, it could turn into a pretty big disaster.
The project is being prioritized with its own business development so-called SWAT team inside Ottawa's major projects office. You can read more on this story on our website this morning. Well, after 2 days this week at the UN in New York, Prime Minister Mark Carney leaves today for London. Carney will meet with British Prime Minister Keir Starmer and other European leaders, as well as Australia's Prime Minister. Carney's office says the meetings will deal with foreign investment and other initiatives that follow the ongoing Trump tariff campaign. You can hear the latest national and international news coming up on World Report at 8. A northern Manitoba community is trying to get a handle on a rising drug problem by having public workers undergo mandatory testing for illegal substances. Wasagamak First Nation hired a company to test all community employees earlier this month. It is one of 4 communities in the Island Lake area dealing with an escalation in drug trafficking. Chief Walter Harper says the testing was also an opportunity to connect residents with addiction services.
We need to step forward. We need to step your foot down and say we're going to have a good working area. We're going to have a safe place. This is something that has to be done. This is what the community wants.
Harper says the community may do the testing again later this year. St. Teresa Point First Nation is rolling out voluntary testing for its workers next month. Indigenous leaders in Manitoba say they are concerned about a call to limit their right to hunt moose. The Manitoba Wildlife Federation wants the province not to allow rights holders to harvest moose in the Duck Mountain and Porcupine Forest. Non-Indigenous hunters are already barred from hunting in those areas. Moose population estimates in those areas fell by around 50% between 2020 and 2023. The Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs says First Nations practice sustainable hunting and a ban could threaten their rights. But the Wildlife Federation's Chris Heald says the province needs to act before it's too late.
You could see the moose population never bounce back. Moose are not prolific reproducers, so it's a long time for them to produce. If the harvest continues, the population will just keep declining, and until you're left with a handful of animals, you'll never recover it.
In a statement, Natural Resources and Indigenous Futures Minister Ian Bushy says the province is committed to protecting moose populations in the region, but did not commit to a hunting ban. You can find more news as it's updated throughout the day at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thank you very much, Heather.
Thank you.
All right, it's time for your regional forecast from CBC. That means Abby Adeyemi is about to take us all around the province.
The sun already made its appearance. Every part of the province really seeing the sunshine break through right now, and that's what we will be getting for most of the day, except for some breezy conditions we'll notice in some spots across the province. Winnipeg right now still hovering between that 14 and 17 degrees in some areas, 15 at the Fox at this time. Comfortably humid. Sunshine will dominate the day. We warm up to about 18 degrees, and then clear conditions continue into the evening, and overnight we'll see some fog develop into tomorrow morning. We cool to about 6 degrees overnight. In the Pembina Valley region, clear conditions also we're getting 14 degrees, 15 degrees in some areas. More than Winkler, out in the Morris, we're seeing mild breeze in that part of the province. Highs around 20 degrees. Clear skies also overnight, and fog will form into tomorrow morning. More sunshine on the way, and humid air will continue tomorrow. For the Westman region, 10 degrees under mainly clear skies, also expecting sunshine and highs near 22 degrees with clear and cool night ahead. The Parkland region, we're looking at 7 degrees with clear skies, also a sunny day ahead, reaching 22 degrees. Overnight lows will be around 5 degrees. In the Interlake region, we're seeing 12 degrees in Gimli at this time. Clear there. Sunshine also will be a major factor today. Some winds will pick up at times. We'll see highs around 20 degrees. Fog will form overnight, and we'll see that region cool to about 6 degrees. In the northern part of the province, the power flame from Thompson Churchill, we're seeing 8 degrees and 5 degrees in that area. Mostly, mainly clear, and of course sunshine in play also. We'll see a mix of sun and clouds play in that part of the province. Further north in Churchill, 9 degrees, a mix of sun and clouds in the forecast. A chance chance of showers this morning, and highs will be near 6. We're just going to see temperatures get to 6 degrees by tomorrow morning. Overall, it's going to be more like a sunny and mild day ahead across the province. 15 right now at the Fox.
And I like what you're saying about leading into the weekend too. I know you're alluding to this earlier in the show, but like if Saturday is going to be sunny 22, Nuit Blanche is on in Winnipeg.
True.
So for our city, that's really good here. Thanks, Abby.
You're welcome.
You know what else is really good? The commute. Call us if you have problems. 788-3093, and we will pass them along so we can all get to work and where we're going safely out there this Thursday morning. I'm Marcy Marcusa. You are on CBC's Information Radio for this Thursday, September 25th. I can't believe the month is almost through. 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app or on CBC's YouTube channel. Well, next on the show, the women's hockey team over at the University of Manitoba has a new coach. It comes after 2 years of interim coaching, leading the squad. Jordan Colleton hails from Blackie, Alberta, but after years of coaching in Canada and overseas, as I mentioned, she has landed in Winnipeg and committed to the Bisons, and I understand is just off the ice. Good morning.
Morning.
So you guys just got off practicing. I appreciate you coming on the air here quickly with us.
No problem.
Yeah, how's the team looking? Yeah, tell me how the team's looking.
Team's looking good. Yeah, it's been nice to actually get here in person and start working with our group, and our team's really gelling together and building our team identity and our game and the concept. So it's really looking good, promising.
And you guys are, so for people that haven't been following your schedule, you guys are just, have you wrapped preseason? I know your home opener is coming up.
We're still in the middle of preseason, but we don't have any more exhibition games. We've played 5 exhibition games already, and then we start, our opening night is October 10th.
Where are the strengths in the squad? I know you're just assessing all the players and looking at things this year, but where do you see the greatest strength?
I think our forward group is really deep. Which is exciting. We have a really high-end skill level that's going to really help us this season. And then we kind of have a mix of veterans and rookies, some first-year student athletes. We have 7 first-year student athletes coming in this season. So it's kind of a mix of some old veterans and some young blood. And, it's kind of a unique dynamic, which is kind of exciting.
The program is looking for stability. How are you hoping to instill that in your leadership, through your leadership?
Yeah, I think just consistency. Consistency in our message and our standard and expectations of the group. Like I think with any high-performance athlete, they just want to know what they need to do to be their best version of themselves. And so that we're providing that environment where, we're providing them an environment where they can perform. We're providing them an environment that they can grow and learn. And then with that consistency, that's where that stability comes from, because they know what's expected of them.
And pardon me, because I misspoke. I after 2 years of an interim coach that had been leading the squad, you of course have been named as the head coach, but you hadn't been the interim coach. So I think I misspoke there, of course. So tell me what drew you here to coach to the U of M and to Winnipeg.
Yeah, first off, on the female hockey side, there's not many head coaching positions available in a full-time role. So when this position came open, I really wanted to throw my hat in. And then also the ability to stay in Canada, in Western Canada. I'm originally from just south of Calgary. And Canada West is a really good league. U Sports is a really good level. And the ability to coach in this conference with these athletes was very intriguing. And then once I was going through the interview process, just the University of Manitoba, it's a great school. The faculty of kinesiology know what they're allowing us to do with the Bison's program and the people in Bison sports. I just know that I was going to get the right support from the people in and around our program, so that I could have the ability to help make an impact on these individuals.
I host a morning show here, but we also weekly do a podcast called This is Manitoba. And actually the subject this week is women in sport in this province. And one of the things that is being discussed is the need for more women in top leadership and mentorship positions in all sport, to grow the programs, to look at sport through a women's lens. It's interesting that you say there's not a lot of opportunities for women to be head coaches. How big of an issue is that when you think about developing players and the sport?
I think, when I was growing up, I didn't have I didn't have any female head coaches until I got to university. But I had a few assistant coaches. And I think as a young female, to see its visibility, right? And to see that there's people in leadership that are females that can have an impact, that can lead in that role and have success, just builds that confidence that they can do it too. If they have a goal and a desire, like it's not just for men, it's women can do it too. And then even on the NHL side, just Campbell being in Seattle and the PWHL expanding and having that visibility, like it just helps grow specifically our sport, but in general, like the confidence and the self-worth that women can achieve the same things too, and even overachieve. So it's, I think, growing and getting better. And I'm very fortunate to have this opportunity to work in hockey to start off with, but also at the university level. Like, I think for me, like I want to have an impact on the athletes that we have here, so that they can, obviously be the best versions of themselves. But when they leave here, they can make an impact on their community. They can have success in their work life, but also the relationships that they have with their family and friends, they're meaningful and valuable. So that's part of the reason why I like coaching at this level, and why I coach in general.
That's that whole piece around developing people, not just players. I know I've read that's been a pillar of how you like to approach things. Why coaching? I wonder if it's a bit in your blood and your family. Your brother's a coach too, a hockey coach with the New Jersey Devils.
Yeah. It's well, I think we grew up in a hockey family, farming community, and when I started playing, I just I had two older brothers that played, and I just want to be just like them and part of the group. And I'm pretty fortunate that I have someone in my family that's in the same kind of job that I am, and I can, we know what each other's going through. We have respect for the work ethic that we've put in to hone our craft and get to where we are. And at the same time too, like my parents raised some really good people, and I'm fortunate to have someone like him in my life that, I can call and text, and he can do the same. And we can support each other in that way. And so, it's funny how life works. We ended up both in some pretty prestigious spots, and I just feel super fortunate and lucky to have the family and that I have in my life.
Jordan, thanks a lot for being on CBC with us, especially as you're just off the ice after practice this morning. Good luck with the season.
Thank you.
That is Jordan Colleton, the head coach of the University of Manitoba Bison's women's hockey team, newly announced in her position. The season opener is Friday, October 10th against the Regina Cougars. Puck drop is at 7 o'clock.
Western Canada's best up-and-coming hip-hop, country, rock artists, and more are coming to Winnipeg. Winnipeg welcomes Breakout West September 24th to 28th. A 4-day music conference and 3-day music festival, including the Western Canadian Music Awards, and CBC is a proud sponsor. Visit cbc.ca/Manitoba/community for more.
Quick traffic note to pass along here. Chris called our CBC commuter line. He says southbound Henderson right now backed up from Hespeler to past Monroe. So there appears to have been some type of a collision, but that's cleared. But there's still a lot of cars backed up because of that initial delay. 788-3093 is where you can reach us if you need to pass something along on this morning's commute. 12 minutes now to 8 o'clock and a bit of music from local artist Kelly Bado. This is her tune, Silver Lining.
Always running, always chasing, no time to rest. Life is busy, all the fight within your head. When you're trying to do your best, life is a show. Go with the flow. Life is a show. Go with the flow. All the noises, all the voices. Where's the money? Where you dreaming? All the times you told yourself you're so close, just do your best. If you find the rhythm, you can find your flow. Remember to count your blessings. Take it easy, take it slow. Don't forget to count your blessings. See the silver lining, take it slow. See the silver lining, the silver lining. See the silver lining, the silver lining. See the silver lining, the silver lining. All the choices, nothing's easy. No, the losses make you dizzy. All the grinding will be worth it. And all the sweating, never forget. Remember it all, the joy and the tears. When you find the silver lining, if you find the rhythm, you can find
Kelly
the
Batto's
flow.
beautiful voice, Silver Lining. If you want to check out her music, it's one of her latest. It is 10 minutes to 8 o'clock now on CBC. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Well, next on the program, for some Manitoba foster parents, news that young children were harmed while in care is devastating, but also not surprising. And we'll hear that in a moment. On Friday, police removed 4 children from a home in North Winnipeg. They say one child was taken to hospital in critical condition and is now suffering from life-altering injuries. Another child is showing signs of being assaulted. 2 foster parents are facing criminal charges. Jamie Fow has been fostering children for over a decade. She's the president of the Manitoba Foster Parent Association, and she's with us via Zoom. Good morning.
Good morning.
Why not surprising? This is also your point of view. Well, devastating, not surprising.
Yeah, I would say it's not surprising because along with being a foster parent since 2011, in 2013, I went back to school and I am about 6 months away from graduating with my PhD in community health sciences. And all of my research in the last decade has focused on child welfare and specifically child welfare research in Manitoba and what we do differently than other jurisdictions. So other provinces in Canada and other countries in the world. And we fall short in many areas, despite best practices and having really solid research out there. Manitoba chooses to not follow this. And as a result, there's lack of oversight, there's lack of accountability, there's lack of preparation, training, resources, supports, funding. And so when you're operating in this system, of course, there are going to be opportunities for people to harm people. And this isn't an isolated incident either.
We online this morning have some comprehensive reporting from our colleagues at our I-team looking at investigations in the province into alleged abuse and then also following through on how many of them actually result in action and how many they can get to. You're talking about resources, so all kinds of problems. What does this feel like for you, given that you've obviously researched, been head of the association, but fostered for years? When you think about 20 years ago and Phoenix Sinclair's death, the children's advocate in this province talking about that little 5-year-old, everyone was supposed to learn from her death. There was an inquiry into her death. There were recommendations into her death. How do we make those things real in Manitoba to improve things and protect children better, in your view?
I think we need to value the children in care a lot more than we do, and we need to prioritize it. And it just hasn't been prioritized. We've heard promises and blanket statements and really little else. And not just with this government for the last several decades. And so we're just seeing the results of a system that has a lack of funding and a lack of resources and a lack of planning over generations. And I think, I say this often, but we can judge a society based on how they treat their vulnerable people, including the elderly community and vulnerable children. And we're doing a terrible job. And again, this isn't new, this isn't isolated. There have been calls to action, reports indicating recommendations, the Auditor General report from 2019 on the management of foster homes. All of these reports have very clear recommendations to follow, and the majority of them are not being adopted, and I'm not sure why.
How has this story been impacting Manitoba's foster care community?
It's just really hard because, Marcy, we get into this position as a foster parent to care for children who don't necessarily have a home at the moment. We understand that we are not replacing birth family, but we're here to make those children, for however long, feel like they have a home, they have a family, they're loved, they get to experience the joy of celebrating a birthday and going, on a family vacation. And that's what our goal is. And it's just, when we are looked at as these people who are greedy or evil or abusive as a collective, it's really damaging and it's unfair and it's untrue. And so I think most of the foster parents in Manitoba right now are just reeling from this experience. We've all fostered children who are vulnerable and who need a safe home. And yeah, I think it's just hit the foster parent community very, very hard.
I understand when you started fostering some 15 years ago, you say that you were unprepared for the road ahead. Can you tell me a little bit about that gap, maybe, and how you're working to try to help make sure foster parents, just to look at that aspect, are prepared?
Yeah, for sure. And so this is a perfect example of one recommendation that has been shared over and over through reports. And it was actually through me reading these reports in my master's degree that really inspired me to do a master's program on the training needs of Manitoba's foster parents. And the truth is, we're one of the only jurisdictions in the entire world that doesn't require a pre-service training program, meaning that foster parents would have to go through this training prior to becoming licensed. This would do several things, but two major things. It would weed out the foster parents who maybe aren't ready to meet that capacity and could become abusive or violent in the future. And it would also, those foster parents who really want to foster but aren't ready yet, it would equip them to respond to the needs of the children who they're about to care for. And to this day, I am not sure why in Manitoba we don't have such training program. Saskatchewan does a great job. Ontario does a great job. There are other provinces who cater to their own province and write a specific training program. But here in Manitoba, we have nothing. We're also the lowest funded foster parents in the country. So when you compile just that entire lack of support, it's no wonder that these instances happen on occasion here in Manitoba.
We'll talk again, Jamie. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Winnipegger Jamie Fowl, president of the Manitoba Foster Parent Association. CBC reached out to Families Minister Nahanni Fontaine. In an email, she said, quote, "My number one priority is the safety of children in care, no matter who's caring for them. Training for caregivers is available through the 4 CFS authorities with e-learning options available on the CFS Learning Management System. The Department of Families also provides $558,500 annually to the Kinship and Foster Family Network of Manitoba to provide training and supports for all foster parents across the province." So obviously some more work to be done in understanding this, as highlighted by our guest, training gaps, other provinces that are doing things differently. So we'll continue to stay on this story as we move forward. If you want to read more about the kids and how they're doing, you can go to our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba. Heather Wells is here with the headlines and news update.
Good morning. Well, Hints this morning about a proposal to turn Churchill's Port into one of the Prime Minister's nation-building projects. The Minister of Northern and Arctic Affairs, Rebecca Chartrand, says there's great potential for that Churchill Port project to be announced before the Grey Cup in November. And on the streets of Churchill, hope and excitement, but concern as well that it all could impact tourism and the environment. So we'll hear more from Churchill coming up. People who use the Red River worry the city is going to dump sewage with more bacteria and viruses over the next 6 months. Levels could triple for 3 kilometers downstream of the North End sewage treatment plant as officials want to shut off the ultraviolet sewage treatment process so they can test new equipment. Those stories and more coming up in our next local news at 8:30.
All right, thanks, Heather.
Thanks.
If you need us on the commuter line, southbound Henderson had been backed up, Heslin and Monroe. That might be better now. Let us know, though, please. 788-3093. Otherwise, quiet in traffic. 15 in Winnipeg. We're heading for 18. Lots of sunshine and a windy day ahead. Part 2 of our bail reform conversation coming up with the head of Inner City Youth Alive. So stay tuned for that. He's going to talk more about real programs, as he puts it, that could be strengthened for reform if youth are apprehended and in jail. So stay tuned. We're going to hear about that. This is CBC.
Today on Q. Sterling Harjo is the creator of the hit show Reservation Dogs. He's also a certified genius in that he won a MacArthur Genius Grant. Sterling will be here to tell you why he wanted his new show to focus on truth and journalism at a time when he says both are more threatened than ever.
What is the world lacking right now? And a lot of that is truth.
Q with Tom Power. This morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland. And on the CBC Listen app or wherever you get your podcasts. The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current with Matt Galloway.
Canada's economy is struggling to adjust to tariffs and global shifts. We'll hear from a series of business leaders about what this country needs to do to thrive. And we begin with the lentil king of Saskatchewan, Murad El-Khatib. That's coming up on The Current.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm John Northcott. We begin with the Prime Minister's latest overseas efforts. Mark Carney leaving for the United Kingdom today. He'll spend the next 2 days in London meeting with world leaders to try to attract investment to Canada. As Livia Stefanovich reports, the Prime Minister is under pressure to deliver results.
Mark Carney has been to the United Kingdom now twice with this upcoming trip, Washington twice. But he's also been to Belgium, France, Germany, Italy.
It's not unusual for new prime ministers to make frequent international trips. But former Conservative cabinet minister Peter MacKay says the globetrotting can come with risks.
The opposition parties will no doubt be keeping track of and questioning the prime minister's ability to deliver a result of some sort, something tangible.
The Conservatives are already seizing on the prime minister's travels, criticizing Mark Carney for coming home empty-handed while the trade war continues with the U.S.
The Prime Minister is in Mexico today for a photo op and fake agreement. But
Carney will now spend the next 2 days in London, meeting with business and world leaders at the Global Progress Action Summit. His goal is to open new markets for Canada, but most of his time is expected to be spent laying the groundwork for future agreements. Roland Paris is the director of the Graduate School of Public and International Affairs at the University of Ottawa. He says the face time Carney will get is valuable.
The summits are actually really important and a really efficient way for the Prime Minister to meet many of his international counterparts at the same place at the same time.
Carney already has meetings lined up with the Prime Ministers of Australia, Iceland, Spain, and Denmark, along with summit host, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Keir Starmer. Olivia Stefanovich, CBC News, Ottawa.
Palestinian leader Mahmoud Abbas will address the United Nations this morning. The virtual speech comes after U.S. President Donald Trump's administration barred Abbas from traveling to New York. His address, via video link, comes at a critical moment for Palestinian statehood. Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba says Palestinian recognition is inevitable. He addressed the Global Assembly yesterday. Ishiba also condemned actions by the Israeli government, warning that they threaten the prospect of a two-state solution. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has vowed not to allow the establishment of a Palestinian state. Former French President Nicolas Sarkozy is going to prison, even as he vows to appeal his conviction. This morning, Sarkozy was sentenced to 5 years after being found guilty of criminal conspiracy.
Ce qui s'est passé aujourd'hui.
Sarkozy addressing reporters earlier this morning following the verdict. He maintains his innocence, saying he will, quote, sleep in prison, but with head held high. The former leader was accused of receiving millions of euros in financing from late Libyan dictator Muammar Gaddafi, leading up to Sarkozy's successful 2007 presidential bid. 2 Danish airports are back up and running this morning. Flights were grounded at the airports last night after reports of drones flying overhead. This is the second time this week that Denmark has been forced to shut down airports because of this sort of activity. As Dominic Valitis reports, Danish authorities say they believe these incidents are meant to spread fear.
Captured on camera, a possible drone is spotted in the vicinity of Denmark's Aalborg airport late Wednesday night. It eventually disappears, but not before the airport was forced to close to commercial and military flights for several hours. 100 miles away, another drone was sighted near Denmark's second largest airport, Billund. It too was forced to close. Drones were also spotted near 3 other airports, including the Skrydstrup Air Base, home to some of Denmark's F-16 and F-35 fighter jets. It's the second such security incident in the Nordic country this week, after Copenhagen's airport was forced to close on Monday due to a drone incursion. At a press conference this morning, the Danish authorities confirmed the drones were launched locally. This was, they say, a hybrid attack, the work of a professional actor intending to spread fear. Although the authorities say there is no evidence to link the drones to Russia, Denmark is now reaching out to both NATO and the EU to discuss the incidents. Dominic Valitis for CBC News, Bristol, England.
People in Hong Kong are cleaning up after the world's most powerful tropical storm this year. Workers cut and remove toppled trees as residents return to daily life. Businesses and some schools have reopened, while Hong Kong's airport authority says that flights will gradually resume this morning. Typhoon Ragasa brought the region to a standstill Tuesday afternoon. It lashed the northern Philippines and Taiwan, where it killed 14 people, downgraded from 17, before making landfall in southern China yesterday. We're expecting to hear more today about the future of Canada Post. The minister responsible, Joel Lightbound, is scheduled to announce new measures to address the financial challenges faced by the Crown Corporation. For its part, the union representing Canada Post workers says it wasn't given any advance notice. CUPW is embroiled in a bitter labor dispute with Canada Post. It's currently refusing to deliver flyers as a pressure tactic to help secure a new deal. Last month, the union's 55,000 members voted down what Canada Post said was its final offer. After a student died from a fatal overdose in a University of Victoria dorm room 2 years ago, the school committed to a number of recommendations made by an inquest, but as Emily Fagan reports, many changes still haven't been implemented.
We know that efforts are being made. Currently, that has not come through loud enough for us to hear about it, and if we haven't, then the average students at UVic haven't heard it.
University of Victoria Student Society Director Griffin Foster says there's more he wants to see in response to a 2023 tragedy. 18-year-old Sydney McIntyre Starko, a first-year student, fatally overdosed inside a dorm.
It has been a real awakening for the university.
Graduate student leader Kyla Turner says she's seen changes on campus since an independent report released this spring showed errors in UVic's response, which said it took 9 minutes for campus security to administer naloxone. Too late to save her life. UVic's president at the time committed to implementing all 18 recommendations, most before this fall. Progress has been made, according to the school's special advisor, Jennifer White, including training for security officers and a policy change to allow students to seek help with an overdose without fear of reprisal. But just 3 were fully implemented by September.
Even though the language might not be exactly precise as to how they were expressed in the original documents, the spirit of those recommendations are what's guiding us.
Looking forward, there's more students hope to see, including on-campus drug testing and reduced stigma about substance use. Student leaders say they're hopeful this work will be continued in the months to come. Emily Fagan, CBC News, Victoria.
And finally, cancer cases and deaths are expected to balloon around the world by the year 2050, affecting patient care. Well, that's according to a new study published by the Lancet Medical Journal. And as Jennifer Yoon reports, doctors are calling for more investments in cancer care to prevent more deaths.
I think we're already feeling a bit of strain with
Cancer specialist Dr. Keith Stewart has started to wonder, do we have enough chairs for people to come in to receive their chemotherapy? Do we have enough beds for those receiving treatments like CAR T-cell therapy?
We see in all of those areas right now that we're sort of brushing up against our full capacity.
That strain may be getting worse in coming years. According to a new study published in the Lancet Medical Journal, by 2050, cancer rates and deaths are expected to balloon by the millions around the world. And while Canada is doing well compared to other countries, an aging population will mean more people getting diagnosed with cancer and more people dying with cancer across Canada. Ali Mokdad is one of the co-authors of the study.
There'll be more people who will have cancer in Canada, not because cancer is increasing in Canada, simply because people in Canada are living longer.
Stewart, the director of Toronto's Princess Margaret Cancer Program, says authorities should start preparing now and take a multi-pronged approach.
I mean, we need to do better with our efficiency, our scheduling, we need to be a bit better at delivering care at home, getting people out of the hospital and doing that efficiently.
Preparations like that and amped up screening and prevention could mean fewer Canadians die preventable cancer deaths, Stewart says. Jennifer Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. If you're enjoying the World Report podcast, and we hope you are, please follow us and tell a friend. It helps to spread the word. I'm John Northcott. This is CBC News.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a pretty clear sky downtown. Hope your morning's going well. 15 in Winnipeg. And a little bit of low-lying cloud, though, here over the tops of the buildings. Almost looks like mist if you're watching us on YouTube. This half hour on the program, we are going over to the university campus, the University of Manitoba, to hear some multiple perspectives on something that developed this week. Canada officially recognizing the state of Palestine. Some of the students we spoke with and heard from are skeptical about what that means, so stay tuned for that. Also this half hour on the program, part 2 of a conversation with Kent Duick. If you were with us in the last hour, you heard from the executive director and founder of Inner City Youth Alive about how he puts it, the complicated task of bail reform. So this half hour, we're going to hear more from him. Stay tuned. He says it's not uncommon for some of the young people he works with and young offenders to make jokes about the bail system, and we're going to hear about why from Kent. Right now, let's first, though, go to Heather Wells, who is with us with news headlines. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, child welfare officials reveal major concerns about the way CFS agencies are conducting child abuse investigations at foster homes. That's according to documents obtained by CBC. Those documents show multiple times over a 4-year period where provincial officials found flaws when a child abuse investigation is conducted by a CFS agency. We're going to hear more on that. And this just out from the mayor's office this morning. Scott Gillingham says more late-night buses are on the way. Gillingham says City Council has heard concerns from shift workers and late-night commuters about the service ending too early to meet their needs. So more on that as well coming up in our next local news at 8:30.
All right, interesting. A lot of reaction to that today, I bet. Thanks, Heather.
You're welcome.
What's happening this morning if you're waiting for a bus or out there with the weather, Abby?
It's going to be mild and plenty of sunshine on the way with some winds turning breezy from the northwest later. That will be the condition across the province. In Winnipeg right now, we're already seeing those sunny conditions hovering between 14 and 17 degrees, depending on where you are in the city. We warm up to 18 later. The winds will peak up, and tonight more clear skies. Some fog will develop overnight into the midnight. We cool off to 6. Tomorrow brings more sunshine. We warm up to 22, and guess what, Marcy? We're going to see 22 22 on Saturday, 22, and then 26 on Sunday.
All right. Well, that looks good. Let's get into the morning commute. Corey.
Yes, actually been a very quiet commute overall, except for at southbound Henderson at Hespeler. Heard from Chris maybe about 45 minutes or so ago. May still be an issue, may not. It was very backed up, he said, all the way past Monroe. Seemed like there was some sort of collision happened around southbound Henderson and Hespeler. But he saw that there was a truck that had like pulled looks like it was pulling a vehicle away. So might be cleared, but if not, it might be backed up there as well. Very slow going potentially. But if you do see anything else going on out there, if you're walking, biking, driving, give me a call and I'll let folks know what you're seeing. That number, 204-788-3093.
Well, Canada did formally recognize Palestine as an independent state this week. The move has some Canadians feeling uneasy. CBC's Jim Agapito asked students at the University of Manitoba, and they had multiple reactions to this from different perspectives. So let's hear from some of them. The first person we're going to hear from is Malachi Gertzen about how he feels about it.
When we're looking at the current situation, Hamas is still holding 48 hostages. And what I see, they're recognizing the Palestinian state, which is represented by both the Palestinian Authority and Hamas as official governing bodies. The Canadian government is saying this is an okay and a legitimate form of resistance when it's actually terrorism.
Bridget Christensen. I want to feel positively about it. I hope that it can lead to action against the ongoing genocide. I did read some statements from Palestinians online saying that it's, not enough. I'm not Palestinian myself. I'm just someone who's worried. This genocide's been going on for so long. It's really horrible. I hope it's a first step.
My name is Adam Katz. I just think it's important to note that this announcement came on the eve of Rosh Hashanah, one of the major Jewish holidays, when many Jews are refraining from using social media or technology, and it really is an insult to the Jewish community here in Canada. I'm profoundly disappointed in the decision. I think it rewards terrorism and anti-Semitism set out by Hamas and the Palestinian Authority.
Radin Koshnam, I'm a student here at U of M. It's more of a formality than anything. Right? If that's all governments that in some indirect way, either financially or through trade, are supporting a genocide, just come out and say, oh, we recognize it as an independent state. Oh yeah, good job, congrats. What have you really done there? Not much. But it's a step in the right direction, at least.
So some critics say it rewards Hamas for October 7th attacks. How do you feel about that statement?
Unfortunately, that statement is absolutely correct. This is victory for Hamas and a victory for their movement. And so what you're seeing is the Canadian government is legitimizing this form of terrorism as a resistance. And unfortunately, I think we're going to start seeing it around the world if the West is standing for this.
That statement's ridiculous. Hamas they're a political party in Palestine. I think bringing them into every single conversation is irrelevant. I think it disserves the people who are actually currently suffering, who are, civilians.
I would generally agree with those critics. No matter which way you look at it, recognition will be recorded by history as occurring in the same time frame and catalyzed by October 7th. It is a direct result of the military actions of Israel within Gaza as a result of October 7th. And I think among the Palestinian leadership, it will send them the message that those acts are rewarded.
Some critics would be well informed to ask why Hamas attacked on October 7th, why Hamas exists in the first place, who was facilitating the support of a terrorist organization overtaking the PLO. Again, what has happened in every part of that area that used to be Palestine that weren't able to defend themselves? It doesn't exist anymore. The only one Jewish friend I've spoken about this, he vehemently despises the IDF and the Likud for what they've done and how they've made the global image of Judaism, just brought it down to a level where people, justify anti-Semitism all the time now because of what Israel is doing.
So how do you think this move makes Jews in Canada feel?
Well, look, I'm not a member of the Jewish community myself, but when I'm talking to people, they're not only looking at what's going on in the Middle East, but they're looking at what's happening at home. And just a few weeks ago, there was a stabbing attack who stabbed a Jewish person in a grocery store. And I have a friend who shops each week at that grocery store before Shabbat. And you know what? It's really concerning, and it's a trend we're seeing not only in Canada, but across the West, and on college campuses especially, where it's become an increasingly radicalized movement. And students should absolutely stand up for what they believe, but it has to be peaceful, and it can't harm Jews, Palestinians, or anyone.
I hope that Jews in Canada will be proud that Canada's recognizing Palestine. I know that not all Jews in Canada support the genocide. I know that they're not all Zionists.
I think at a time when anti-Semitism is at record heights, both in Canada and across the world, the decision to recognize a Palestinian state only validates the campaigns and rhetoric that have fueled Jew hatred and anti-Semitism across the country. But it also sends the message that intimidation and incitement work. And that sets an extremely dangerous precedent for all minorities, including Jewish people. If Canada wants to recognize a Palestinian state, and if Prime Minister Carney is set on doing so, then it has to be done with a certain condition. And this was outlined a couple of months ago when he initially made the announcement, completely releasing all of the hostages, including all of the bodies of those believed to be deceased, demilitarization and relinquishing of arms by Hamas. You cannot have a terror state on the border of a free and democratic state and expect to live in coexistence and in peace. You need all the Arab states and Palestinian leadership to recognize Israel's right to exist, the right to live in peace, and the right of the Jewish people to live in their indigenous homeland.
So a variety of perspectives and many thoughtful perspectives there from the students at the University of Manitoba and other people on campus. CBC's Jim Agapito spent some time there this week. Also this week, of course, Canada formally recognizing Palestine as an independent state. If you have an idea that you'd like Jim to hit the streets with, we rarely ask this, but we'd love to know what you would like to hear perspectives on. You can always let us know. We take a lot of those pitches by email, so radio893@cbc.ca.
The National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. It's a day of hope, awareness, and reflection. A day that will show Canadians the path forward. Join CBC as we explore the rich and diverse cultures, voices, experiences, and histories of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people with a full day of programming, concerts, documentaries, and special events right across the country. September 30th on radio, TV, online, and on demand on CBC Listen and CBC Gem.
8:20 is the time right now, and on Tuesday, September 30th, Orange Shirt Day, the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, we will have our show live in Opaskwayak Cree Nation, so in OCM. We hope you can join us next week. Well, now on the show to the second part of a conversation. You heard part one last hour if you were with us on Information Radio. This is an interview with Kent Duick. He's the executive director and founder of Inner City Youth Alive. It's about, as he puts it, the complicated issue of bail reform. In the first part of our discussion, Kent talked about how an ineffective bail system can hurt people's sense of safety in the community and confidence in police and the justice system. But he also says he has compassion for young people who are trying to break the cycles of crime and violence. Here's a small part of what we heard before 8.
We have youth that have maybe committed what we know to be a violent crime. And when we ask them, we notice that they're released. We ask them how it is they're released. They don't even know. So they're saying they don't understand, given the severity of the crime they committed, how on earth they could be released. And the police have told me that one of the most common statements made when they arrest somebody is, "I'll be out before you're off shift."
Now, one of the things we've heard repeatedly as we've been doing this series of conversations about bail reform is the need to balance community safety with the risks of keeping a young person locked up. And then there's a risk that they could be driven deeper into criminality. I asked Kent about that. You hear that sometimes a young person will go to jail and then that will be a training ground for them to sort of, get involved in more maybe violent or organized crime. And then you also can hear, as you said, that they may access programs that they maybe need to improve their lives. First, there's two things there. First of all, what are your thoughts on the availability of those programs in community in Manitoba right now to help people better their lives? Because I know that at least our defense attorney, one of our perspectives on this story, said she can write that into bail plans, but the reality is those resources don't exist, so that's a problem too.
Oh man, you've really you brought it all kind of into the mix. And yes, jail can be like crime school, and but at the same time, if reforms could be made in jail where more programming was available, like it just seems like we're so short-sighted about this. We think, decrease funding, and we don't have money. Maybe all we can do is contain, people that commit crime. But it's so short-sighted because the cost on society, if we don't have programming in prison, and so if I was king for the day and I could remake our society, I would want to see no more victims, no more crime, but in light of the reality we're in right now, I would like to see jail reform where jail is about serious reform, like helping young people turn over a new page, helping young people catch up in their education. I do think, however, that we've been, Inner City Youth Alive, we've been really working a lot with Homeboy Industries in Los Angeles, and they do lots of gang intervention and recovery. They offer jobs. And one of the things that they really focus on is the idea of kinship or family. And it sounds soft on the surface, but so often young people who are caught up in gangs there is a sense of community or family in that, but obviously it's very dysfunctional, and it's and it never sort of proves effective when you need it most. And so in my mind, people, if somebody's caught up in the violence that comes out of their involvement in gangs, they need a new gang. They need a new place where they have a full sense of belonging. And so, when I think about all of the programs, I think, Andrew Street Family Center, Rossbrook House, Inner City Youth Alive, Nadinaway, Build, our program, Step Up Construction. There are lots of opportunities in the community for a sense of community and family. And, it may sound simplistic. And I know some people who are really caught up in it need definitely a more complex support system and programming. But there's quite a bit in community. And I hope that they don't sort of waylay the plans for bail reform until the time that, in their mind, programming is perfect in the community. If we sort of project out 10 years, if we do not stop what's happening, where will we be in 10 years? And so part of me, like even the actions of the mayor, sounds a little like, wow, we're going to be now posting pictures of individuals who are repeat offenders. And is that the place we've come to? And yet we're going to get there at the rate we're going. And maybe the mayor just had, sort of the foresight to say, okay, let's do this and let's acknowledge, we have been begging for change. Marcy, you asked me just prior to the election
2 years
whether
ago,
the
yes,
promise of bail reform was election time, promise, or whether it was going to be real. And that was a great question. And my guess was it's, election time rhetoric. And here we are. I hope it comes, and I hope it's not just dabbling around the edges, because
Kent Duick, thank you very much for all of your insight today. Really valuable to our ongoing discussions about this.
Marcy, thank you so much for paying attention to this very important issue.
So that's the second part of a longer feature interview I had with Kent Duick. I spoke with him on Monday. Kent is the executive director and founder of Inner City Youth Alive. It's part of a series of conversations we've had about bail reform from a Manitoba perspective.
You treasure Tony Soprano.
What line of work are you in?
Waste management consultant. Adore Dexter.
Really? That's your answer?
And delight in Don Draper.
But what is happiness? It's a moment before you need more happiness.
But can the not good, the very bad, and the bad but not ugly actually sell you stuff? Advertising Antiheroes on Under the Influence with Terry O'Reilly.
I'm making some changes.
Thursday morning at 11:30, 3:30 p.m. in Newfoundland.
Hey.
And on CBC Listen.
Whoops, I jumped him there. The CBC News is coming up at 8:30, and we have some developments in the transit system. They're making some changes. So Heather Wells is going to talk more about that at 8:30 in the news. Also, I want to talk about today Musically, because the first day of Breakout West is here in Winnipeg happening. So that means artists from all across Canada are going to be playing various venues for the next 3 days. Tonight, the Park Theatre is going to be busy. Tonight, acts like the Haleys and Virgo Rising are going to be on stage, and so is Fontaine. Here's Fontaine with Home right here on CBC 89.3 FM.
Running down to the well, through the forests and the fields, with my cousins at my heels. In the garden with my mom, pulling weeds all day long, picking sweetgrass from the lawn. I wonder when I will be back again. I feel at home right here. I wonder Rainbow prisms down the hall, sparkles from a disco ball, soulmates written on the wall. Walking down Main with you, sipping coffee with a view, watch the people passing through. I wonder when I will be back again. I feel at home right here. I wonder when I will be back again. I feel at home right here. At home right here. At home right here. Spinning records all night long in Jimmy's place behind the house. Someone's passed out on the couch. Lights of yellow, red, and blue, sitting talking in the booth. I love coming home to you, to you. I wonder when I will be back again. I feel at home right here. I wonder when I will be back again. I feel at home right here. At home right here. At home right here. I wonder when I will be back again. I feel at home right here. At home I wonder if I will be back again. Wonder if I will be back again.
At the Park Theatre tonight as part of Breakout West here in Winnipeg. That's Fontaine and Home Right Here. Your CBC Winnipeg News is next.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg at 8:30. Lots of sun out there. A little bit of a north wind. It's going to cool us down through the day. Cooler than yesterday, a high of 18. Still warmer than seasonal. The normal high this time of year is 15, and we do warm back up tomorrow. Well, the mayor this morning says more late-night buses are on the way. Scott Gillingham and Public Works Chair, Councillor Janice Lukes, say they are committed to expanding evening transit service as part of the upcoming 2026 budget process. They say City Council has heard concerns from shift workers and late-night commuters of the service ending too early to meet their needs. The mayor says he knew adjustments would be needed to the network from the start of the overhaul of the transit service. He says some have already been made. Gillingham calls expanding late-night service the next big step forward. Child welfare officials found multiple problems with the way abuse investigations within foster homes are being handled by agencies. That's according to new documents obtained by CBC. They show every time a child abuse investigation is conducted by a CFS agency and the province reviews the findings, the documents reveal CFS agencies were not conducting proper interviews and were putting criminal investigations at risk. Jamie Pfau is the president of the Manitoba Foster Parent Association.
Symptom of a much larger issue, like, the frontline workers are generally unsupported and undertrained for their roles.
The province's Deputy Director of Child Protection Branch says the goal is to help agencies by finding themes in child abuse investigations. Well, people who use the Red River worry about the city dumping sewage with higher levels of bacteria and viruses. For 3 kilometers downstream of the North End sewage treatment plant, levels could triple over the next 6 months. Officials say they must shut off the ultraviolet sewage treatment process at the plant so they can test new equipment. Nicole Ritschott sits along the river watching birds several times a week.
If people feel they can't fish anymore, it'll change all the fisher people's habits because there's so many young people and old people and all kinds of people who sit here every day and fish.
The city is notifying residents and posting signs along the Red River. It says fish won't be affected. but people should wash their hands if they touch the water and keep pets away from the river. Hope, excitement, and concern on the streets of Churchill. The northern town's nearly 100-year-old port is being touted as a potential nation-building project. CBC's Karen Pauls traveled to Churchill.
It would certainly be community changing for sure.
Joe Stover used to work at the port. Now he's in tourism. He sees the benefits of more economic development, bringing jobs and population growth. But he worries about parts of the Churchill Plus proposal, like an all-weather road.
And does it matter if the community wants it or not? If it's a nation-building project, are they just going to go ahead and build it anyway?
The proposal is being prioritized with its own business development SWAT team inside Ottawa's major projects office. Chris Avery heads the Arctic Gateway Group, which owns the port and the railway.
Developing all the plans, whether it's ice breaking on a year-round basis or the upgrade to the rail line, to all-season roads, to energy corridors.
We need to get Churchill across the finish line.
More optimism from Rebecca Chartrand, the Minister of Northern and Arctic Affairs and MP for Churchill Keewaydinook-Aski.
I think there is absolutely great potential for Churchill to be announced before the Grey Cup,
which takes place November 16th in Winnipeg. Karen Pauls, CBC News, Churchill.
A northern Manitoba community is trying a new way to clamp down on drug activity. Wasagamak First Nation did mandatory testing of its public workers earlier this month and may do it again later this year. St. Teresa Point First Nation is also planning on voluntary testing of its employees. The two communities are among 4 Island Lake First Nations facing an escalation in cocaine and meth use. Alex McDougall, the Grand Chief for the region, says they need a regional approach to this problem.
One community has prevention efforts. It is defeated if the other communities aren't following and providing the same efforts.
An addictions clinic serving people from the 4 Island Lake First Nations recently opened its doors in Winnipeg. And a call to limit the right to harvest moose concerns some Indigenous groups in Manitoba. The Manitoba Wildlife Federation calls on the province to not allow rights holders to take moose in the Duck Mountain and Porcupine Forest. Moose population estimates in those areas fell around 50% between 2020 and 2023. But the Manitoba Métis Federation says it's already closely monitoring hunting practices. Peter Fleming is the MMF's Minister of Natural Resources.
One of the things that I think Manitoba Wildlife Federation seems to forget is we have harvesting rights, constitutionally protected harvesting rights to harvest. They have a privilege to harvest through a provincial tag allotment.
In a statement, Manitoba's Natural Resources and Indigenous Futures Minister Ian Bushy says the province is committed to protecting moose populations in the region, but did not commit to a hunting ban. You can find the latest news throughout the day. All you have to do is head to our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
All right, last quick look, Corey, traffic.
Quiet commute overall. Nothing too big to report.
Okay, Abby.
Sunshine and the forecast. Highs around 20 degrees. Winnipeg gets to 18 up north. We'll just see cool temperatures in that part of the province. Close to 17, 18 degrees there.
Abby Adiemi, Corey Funk, Brad Lillies, our live awesome team. Thank you, guys. Also in our news department, Alana Cole, Heather Wells, and Megan Ketchison, and those who contributed to today's Information Radio, reporter Jim Agapito, and associate producers Chidi Akuma, Carmen Ponto, Jenna Badosso, and Sierra Sanders. Yay! Thanks, everybody, for your work. On Radio Noon today, this will be a talker. CFL rule changes between 12:30 and 1. That's the call-in. If you care about it, make a date with your radio over the noon hour. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Thanks for listening. I'm off the show tomorrow, and Monday we're live from Opaskwayak Cree Nation on Tuesday. Hope you can join us. You're on 89.3.